Welcome, everyone, to episode number 88 of Chatting with Nuts. And tonight's guest is someone that I've been wanting to talk to a long time. And actually, I found out that they would love to have talked to me earlier than this, which makes me feel stupid for not asking sooner. But this is someone who is formerly known as How to Train Your Gavin, currently known as Gavin Reads It All. But I think after tonight will forever be someone that you will want to call a friend. Gavin, how are you tonight?
I am doing great, friend. Thank you so much for finally getting me on. As we were talking about before, we literally we were talking about how much we would want to do this earlier. And yeah, I guess, like what's the patience makes oh no, absence makes the heart grow fonder, I think.
Yes,
So that's kind of just what's happened here, hasn't it? Like it's
I think
just
so.
yeah, a long time coming and yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I feel like also the hype's been building because you're always in chat, which I greatly appreciate. I've had some people say that this is like the corner store of like booktube because everyone comes and hangs out. Like Murphy will come hang out, you'll come hang out. Jared will like people who are just so much bigger than what this channel is, but everyone feels welcomed. Any range of people. And I feel like since you've been in chat, people are like, Gavin should come on. I'm like, I agree, Gavin should come on. And we finally figured it out. But I feel like there's been like, at least for me and you, there's been this anticipation of you and I sitting down and getting to talk because there is zero doubt in my mind that we're going to get along handsomely.
We already do, we're already best friends. So we get on so well. And I think another reason as well is because I'm in the UK, our time zones, they're a little bit different, just slightly. So I feel like that's another thing. But the great thing about me is that I feel like I don't abide by my time zone. So
You do
you
not.
could, I really don't. I much prefer to be up really, really late than getting up really, really early. So here I am. Here I
Well,
am.
I'm so thankful, by the way. Folks, I asked Gavin, I said, what time would you like to start? Because I knew Gavin was not in my time zone, at least as far as I knew. He's 7:30 p.m. Eastern every 2 weeks. I said, okay, he's a fan. He's a fan of the show. He knows the deal. He knows the time slot. He knows it belongs to me. And
Yes.
he would not come out of that time slot. And I just, man, let me tell you, I felt very honored the fact that you were willing to completely wreck your schedule. But like you said, I don't know how much you actually stick to that schedule as it is because you had like a 9 hour or 10 hour reading sprint yesterday. Or was it
Oh,
two
yeah.
days ago at this point?
It was yesterday. No, yeah, it was yesterday. It was 10 and a half, nearly 11 hours. Yeah. Uh, I
Ah,
do, I do around about like 4 to 5 live shows a week because I also do a lot on Patreon and they can last a good like 5, 6 hours as well. So it just absolutely like I've got no concept of time. I have zero concept of time. Waking up, going to bed, nothing. Like I am ruled by just like if am I exhausted? Okay, go to sleep. Am I not? Then stay awake. Why force it? Why force yourself? So I've been that way since I was a child. I came out the womb that way. I came out of the womb with bags under my eyes and just an absolute penchant for coffee. So yeah, it's just the way I am, and I wouldn't change me for the world.
I
Wouldn't
wouldn't
do.
change you either. And I love that you just embrace that's the bags under the eyes and everything. Because Shelf Unstable, good friend Amanda says, hello from Australia. Gavin, we were just watching your Melbourne vlog. And we had some other people, Melbourne, I should say, vlog. And I watched that recently as well, and you were struggling one morning, and you went down and you got some coffee, I believe, and I was just like, yeah, you're just a trooper. Like you have an attitude of like you're gonna do what you want to do, no matter what happened the day before or what the night before, and I admire that about you. I don't have that, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, literally. I what happened was as well, I spent 2 days traveling to get to Australia. 2 days traveling, was it 48 hours in total, like including travel times, layovers, what have you. And yeah, the first thing that my friends did was take me to see Beauty and the Beast in the theater, which was amazing. I loved it. But I was trying so hard to fight for my life to stay awake. And that was as soon as I pretty much gotten off the plane. So I had to stay awake for even longer. And then the next day we went on a wine tour. So I had to be up early. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not really fixing any kind of jet lag or anything like that. Not today. So I just had to roll with it. Had to roll with it.
You did wonderful. The wonderful vlog, by the way. I absolutely loved it. Um, I have watched hundreds of hours probably of your channel at this point, just because you're always doing something that is one interesting, but also just downright entertaining. And I have to see what you're about to do next. Like, I really do feel like I never know what's going to happen on your channel, which is one of the reasons why I think people love you. I mean, yesterday you did those reading vlogs for 9 hours and you started it, and you've done this before, but you were like, I'm doing reading sprints and this does not stop until I finish the book. So I'm thinking you're 80%, 90% of the way through the book. He's gonna jump on an hour. No, you're mad. You're a madman. You're like 20% through a book, and you, and you will stay on those sprints. That is dedication. I mean, I'm so envious of that.
You could definitely do it. Don't sell yourself short. You could definitely do it. One of the things, one of the things I was inspired by doing that kind of thing, because I love taking inspiration from other sides of YouTube. So when I do like these reading sprints, won't end
Mm.
until I finish my book. I watch gamers. I love watching people play games, and sometimes people will do streams like, I won't stop streaming until I platinum this game or things like that. So I was like, oh, that's really fun. Like, I want to try and do something like that for BookTube and do it for reading sprints. And so, yeah, I kind of, I didn't know what the hell I was doing yesterday because the book was over 600 pages long
It was not
and
short.
it was not short. I started at 2 p.m. my time and it was like, I think I did like a total of like 8 hours and 20 minutes actual sprints. Like I have to talk to people in between them as well. So
Hmm.
that makes even more time. But yeah, it took me 8 hours and 20 minutes to read like a 600, 700 page book. I was determined. But you know what? It makes me so, what's the word? Like so focused when I have a goal like that. And yeah, I get through a book pretty well. And I don't know if maybe I'm reading a little bit too fast. I'm not taking it all in, but I feel like I was. It was a romantasy, and I feel like as long as you get the romance, you don't really have to pay that close attention, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, is that how you prefer to read your books? Is kind of like, I mean, to me, that's a
Pressure.
binge. Yeah.
Yeah, pressure. Yeah. Yeah, I pressure myself. Well, see, so I do this full time. So I have to kind of really plan when I film, when I edit, what I'm reading, when I'm reading it. So these past couple of weeks, I've been trying to read a book a day. And some of those books are between like 400 to 600 pages, maybe up to 700. And yeah, I have to do that. To be fair, in my defense, I read The Stand in 3 days, and that's about like 1,300 pages. And I feel like I
It's
could have finished
huge.
that in two. I held myself back. I feel like I could have done that in two. One thing is I really, really love just the act of reading. I love reading so much that I could just sit there for a full day and do it. And I'm so blessed that
Hmm.
I have a job where I can just do that. If I still had my 9 to 5, if I was still working in a bookstore, I don't think I could. But I honestly love reading so much. I want to do it all day, every day if I could. And I can at the minute. Well, I still have to film and edit, but I can do a book a day, and I love that so much. And I write so many notes too, and that
Hmm.
takes up so much time. And yeah, I always worry, oh, do people think I'm not going to like be taking it in? Am I reading it too fast or whatever? But I tell you, I read all of the Gossip Girl books, 13 books, 14 books, and I wrote a 38-page manifesto of the entire series, everything that happens, all of my thoughts. Like seriously, I take it all in, but my problem is that I forget. Like once I've talked about it in a video, I forget everything afterwards. It's like I talk about it, I get off my chest, and then my brain just completely deletes it, and then I move on to the next thing. So it's like I'm constantly shuffling, I'm constantly hustling for the next book. And do I retain it afterwards? Maybe not. Maybe not. But
Well,
as long as I talk about it and get it off my chest, then it's great.
I mean, you're able to put into words the experience you had, which is kind of the biggest struggle
Mhm.
of doing this or even talking about books. Sometimes it's even hard to figure out how a book exactly made you feel. There's a lot of stuff that ends up getting dumped out of the hard drive after been away from it for a while. But sometimes, if I'm reading like a series, for instance, I'll actually go back to the book review I did or a stream where I talked about a book. And sometimes I impress myself. I'm like, man, I was cooking. Like I was really doing something there. And I'm kind of impressed by that. And I don't think that there's really anything wrong with kind of like digesting it, getting it out in the moment, and then
Mhm.
moving on from it, especially because we're on the internet, right? I think that's true. I think everyone would agree we're on the internet. And with the internet comes hearing every single other person's opinion. And what will happen sometimes is people will start to sway you. You'll hear so many people dislike something or love something, and you'll be like, did I really feel that way? And I think whenever you make content like right around the time that you actually read the thing and you're getting it off your chest, is the most like true to you experience that you can. And that you can change your mind later. But there is something about encapsulating that in a moment in time of like, this is how I really felt when I finished that book, that I think is kind of special and can be taken away if you let too many people in through the door of your mind to infect whatever experience you have with whatever work, you know?
Well, two things. One, I'm always so sad when you take down your wrap-ups because I'm like, keep them up. Like that's a forever thing. Like I know you say like, oh, people might not want to like because it was a specific month or whatever, but like seriously, I love being able to go back on people's thoughts on certain books sometimes, or sometimes I find people that way. And as you say, sometimes you have to watch it back to kind of remember
Yeah.
kind of how you felt in that moment. But two, as well, you bring up a great point of being able to talk about it in the moment. Your honest and very direct feelings and thoughts. That's why I love vlogging so much. That's why I love doing a silly vlog. It could be a weekly vlog, it could be a themed vlog, because I don't really do wrap-ups myself. So it's the way, like the only way I can really talk about a book that I'm reading in that moment and share everything before I forget. Otherwise, I will forget. Like, what did I read earlier this year? That I'm well, actually, I feel like half of the stuff that I read earlier this year, maybe in the first 3 months, I can't really quite remember all that much. I was currently doing a Goodreads Choice Awards video reading the romantasy books, and House of Flame and Shadows on there, and I read that back in February, and I couldn't remember exactly what I thought of it, so I had to rewatch the vlog I did, and I was like, oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's what I thought exactly. So I had to do exactly what you had to do too, like rewatching your thoughts and feelings on something just to jog that memory back. But yeah, I totally agree with you on those points.
Yeah. I, uh, I also do think that whenever I do a vlog that I sound more sure of myself than when I talk about things in retrospect. I know that sounds kind of weird, but usually I'm feeling something. Like if I really like a book or dislike it, I'm feeling something in that moment. And I think a lot of people come to YouTube, book side of YouTube, for that passion, whether it be for excitement or for hatred or whatever it might be. And I think that those vlogs give you almost a reason, not a reason, but a permission to be a little bit more in the moment, hyperbolic possibly. I know that recency bias is a real thing that affects me. But also with your vlogs, people just love to see where you're going and what you're doing. Benjamin, who's our fellow Aussie here in the audience, there's plenty of them, but he says, lived in Melbourne for 5 years and didn't even find half the bookshops in that vlog. So you're doing the Lord's work and helping people find new bookstores, which I think should be a tax write-off or something. Like,
100%. I'm writing off that entire trip. I'm writing 2024 to 2025 tax. Yeah, it's going in there. I swear. But the great thing about the bookshops that I found in Melbourne was that my friend who has been living there for the past few years, like she made this whole like walking tour, go to this bookshop and then go to this coffee shop thing. I would not have found those myself if I didn't have the help. So my lovely friend Ellen was so kind enough to make all of that for me. And if you need to use that as well, I would totally recommend going there. I think it was called the Hill of Content or the Hill of Content. I don't know which content, one of those words. And it was like probably like my one of my favorite bookshops there. If you can possibly go there, I would 100% recommend it. Anyone in Melbourne, go. It's so good. I loved it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You've also, I mean, you really do kind of go everywhere. It is very fun to live vicariously through you in many ways. Simon Dinosaur actually hit us up with the super chat. It was very, very generous of you, Simon. Thank you so much. Says this is positive reinforcement for Jimmy to keep talking nice about himself in his book reviews we all love. I do love some negative self-talk. So Simon, you're not incorrect, and it is very kind of you for the 10 spot. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We had a question, and I wanted to get to it because I think this is interesting that you take ideas from other parts of YouTube. And I also have done that many times because the majority of what I ingest on YouTube is actually not booktube. It's many other different things. And I have like 3 different accounts, so my algorithm doesn't get too messed up because I don't want certain things recommended on certain accounts, right? But Ryan said, Gavin, who are your go-to game streamers watching on Twitch? I'm guessing, but obviously, if it's not Twitch, that's fine too. I'm curious, like who do you like to watch?
Yeah. Well, I say I love with Ali, or like, well, she's called with Malice on Twitch, but with Ali on YouTube. She is a booktuber. She used to go by Hardback Order, and she's been streaming for like the last, I think, like 4 years this month, I think. And she's just amazing. She does like Dead by Daylight and other stuff. And she even does like reading sprints as well. So that's awesome. I've also been watching Jahara Jade as well, and she also does both like simul streams on Twitch and YouTube. And she does a lot of Kingdom Hearts recently. I love Kingdom Hearts. It's my favorite game series ever. I know it's so silly. It's like I bet so many people who are like serious gamers look at someone who says, "Oh, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite," and thinks, "What an absolute amateur! What an absolute amateur hour!" But I love it so much. So I really love Jahara Jade at the minute too. I love Granny. Has anyone ever seen Granny before?
Granny. Is she a
Yes.
granny?
Well, it's a drag. It is a drag show
Okay,
essentially,
gotcha.
and but it's she's an Irish granny, and she does like Dead by Daylight. She does a lot of horror, and she is so hilarious, so funny, and she posts like the best bits of his streams on YouTube, and it's just so funny, like genuinely so hilarious. So I do watch them. So there is someone called Mystic who does YouTube videos of games and stuff like that. Just some like really good concepts and appraises his collection a lot, which is what something I've really wanted to do. I want
Hmm.
to appraise my book collection, but that's going to be like really, really hard to do, and I've got so many that it will be really hard to do. But I do love someone called Mystic, and there's quite a few more, but I those are the ones off the top of my head.
Well, there's some support for Granny in the chat, by the way. Bees Knees loves Granny. Beps loves Granny. So you're not the only Granny supporter here tonight, which is wonderful. I've
It is.
literally never heard of half of these people, but now I
Oh,
have new people to look at because I watch a lot of gaming YouTube as well.
mm,
Your inspiration taken from all these other places has made you into maybe the most entertaining person I've ever seen in the book side of this thing that we do. And there's
thank
people. I
you.
mean, people are saying your Melbourne one was amazing. Your haunted places one; those are my favorite. Actually, I know Joanna also absolutely loves those. Uh, I have so many questions. Okay, I have so many
So do
questions about
I.
these.
So do I.
So first off, my favorite reading vlog you've ever done. This is more of a statement than a question. The Lord of the Rings one, the
Mm.
presentation that you put into that, and the editing and the opening and the segments and stuff, folks. If you have not watched Gavin's Lord, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, even just the movies, I implore you to go watch Gavin's vlog for Lord of the Rings in a little Hobbit house. Very cinematic opening, costumes. I mean, you really just go for it. And what is your favorite reading vlog? I guess that we'll start there.
It'll be that one. Like seriously, I love that
So
so much.
good.
It was at a time as well because it was January last year. Well, this year actually it was January this year. But it was during a time when like my mental health wasn't the best, and I
Hmm.
was kind of feeling like this is going to affect my channel because this is what I do full time, and if I'm feeling low, then my viewers will probably feel low, and then
Yeah.
all of that was kind of on top of me. So I was like, oh, a great thing for me to do would be to reread a series that I know I love
Hmm.
and make it fun. Because one thing I love to do is I love reading, but I can't really sometimes convey how much I love it by just like talking about how much I love it. I
Yeah.
have to do something silly as well. Like if I have to be in costume, I'll do it. If I have to go to a haunted castle, I'll do it. If I have to go to the Shire House and that, which was like very expensive. It was an expensive excursion because I was there for a week.
Oh,
It was like £1,000. It was like $1,000 or something. And I was like, I'm never making this money back in this video alone, but I don't care because I'm gonna find it so much fun to do. And I licensed the songs that I used in it as well. So the soundtrack from the movies, I licensed them so that I could use them without getting copyright claimed. And I honestly, I was like, I'm gonna put everything into this. I'm
mhm.
gonna put my entire goodness into this because I want this to be my magnum opus. I want this to be my peak. And I feel like I'm very proud of that one. I love it so much. Could it be better? Of course it could. Like I feel like there's definitely things I can always improve on, but I want people to feel like they're part of that world as well. So when I'm rereading The Lord of the Rings, I want you to feel like you're in The Lord of the Rings. So I'll
Hmm.
theme the vlog. I'll go to the Shire House. I'll put in the music so that sounds like you're in the movies as well. Same with the Haunted Castle vlogs. If I'm reading a horror book and people are scared and they're in this really atmospheric place, I want my viewers to feel like they're there too. So I kind of I'm immersed by reading, and I want my viewers to be immersed by
Hmm.
my videos. You know, like I want that relationship with my viewers and make it a little bit more fun than usual.
It's
Fingers
an
crossed that happens.
well, it does. It comes across beautifully, and it's because you can tell you put time into it and thought into it, and it's an experience. Like not only am I getting to experience this series that I love, which is Lord of the Rings, but I'm getting to experience it through you and your reading vlog. And that experience, it's very, very, very worth it to me to watch these vlogs. So I rewatched the Lord of the Rings one today because like I was working, I was like, I want to
Mm.
throw on some Gavin, got to get fired up. Maybe something will trigger in my mind and we can go over it. And I said, well, what should I rewatch? So I rewatched two things. One, and someone mentioned it, I rewatched the Nunnery musical sequence, which is one of my favorites, and then I rewatched the Lord of the Rings one, and
Oh,
I just love it so very much. And I really do implore folks, if you have not seen it, to go watch it because you said it's your magnum opus. And I actually would point someone to say, like, who's Gavin? Like, what does Gavin do? I would point them to the Lord of the Rings vlog. It's just so
oh,
good.
thank you. Honestly, thank you so much for that. I wish I could change some of the B-roll of that because I was a little shaky. You know, like when I'm going through the house and I'm trying to show everyone stuff, I'm a little bit shaky. So that's something I would change. So I can never see that vlog now and think, oh, it's perfect. There's always something I can do better. But I'm so glad you say that because like I want my channel to be somewhere where people can be like, they'll have like a set thing that they will hopefully enjoy. So I love having vlogs that are maybe like a little bit more unique. So people will be like, oh, I love the Haunted Castle vlog, or I love
Yeah.
the Nunnery vlog, or I love the Lord of the Rings vlog. No, I want people to say like, like there's something that stands out to them kind of thing. Because like,
Hmm.
if anything, one thing I absolutely love doing the most of on YouTube is making people laugh and making people smile and like people having a fun time. Like I love that so much. So I always want to try and do that with my videos. So yeah, like the nunnery one, oh my God, it's the cringiest thing in the world when I'm doing that sister act musical number in a haunted nunnery that has
It's so good.
CCTV. So the guy who was in the security office could probably see that as well. But like I I get comments every now and then saying, "Oh, this is so cringy," like whatever. It's like people trying to take a little bit of my shine. I'm like, you
No.
can try, but you're not going to take it. You're not going to take my shine. I'm going to continue being cringy if I have to be cringy. So yeah, I feel like even though I'm making myself look like an absolute tit, essentially, I'm having a fun time. I'm having a fun time. And look, if I make you laugh, Jimmy, then that makes me so happy. So let the haters hate. I
Hey,
say, let them.
it's not just funny though. I mean, you also provide other emotions, like for instance, an everyday life with cat. I agree with you totally. The Lord of the Rings one is so
Mm,
comforting. Sometimes it feels like you're just hearing a friend talk about books, which I think is a lot of the appeal of booktube for a lot of people. But you've also been able to relay your emotions while reading a book that can vary greatly. So it's not just always funny, but you are extraordinarily funny. And
mm,
specifically, when you were singing the Nunnery and you laugh, like you kind of break for
mm.
a second. It's my favorite moment of that entire vlog. And I cackle every single time that I watch it. I remember Joanna, our good friend from Joanna Reads, messaging me and being like, have you seen this? Like, this is the best thing I've seen this year. And I think she has watched every video you've ever done. Like, I really do think so. And I don't blame her. It's-
I love Joanna, honestly. Like she was so like for context as well, I absolutely love what you do, Jimmy. I love the fantasy side of BookTube, Evie, everyone who's like part of that. And I felt not exactly like I was watching you guys and I was watching these live streams and the podcast and the chatting and stuff. And like say Joanna as well. And I'm just like, gosh, I would love to like chat with you guys. Like it seems like such a tight knit, like friendly community and stuff. So like I love that so much. And just like how supportive you all are. So I was always like so like I didn't want to be a part of it because I was like, oh. it's intimidating. It's a little intimidating, and you guys have your own thing, and it's amazing. And I love watching it. And obviously like Murphy as well, and like I would say I'm best friends with me and Murphy are best. I'm kidding, but like I feel like we are. But yeah, so you know what I mean? It's like you guys are so supportive of one another. So like to hear that Joanna, who again I love so much, she was the first person
Hmm.
to get me on one of these podcasts and these chats. Why read? Great series. Uh,
Yeah.
she she's just so lovely and so incredible. So I feel like that's pretty much everyone in the fantasy sphere who I've come across so far. Philip Chase as well, who was also in the comments of the Why Read live show as well. Just like seeing you guys just constantly boosting one another up, it just makes me feel great about booktube in general because it's such a
Hmm.
fantastic place to be. Like the community, the viewers, the other booktubers, everyone just absolutely chef kiss to everyone involved.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Hey, no, it's all good vibe. I mean, it is true. I mean, there is kind of like a group of people who interact a lot, and sometimes I worry a little bit because I don't want people to think that it's super insular.
Mm,
Like I love having people on, and even people who I don't always agree with. Right? Like I've had many people on who we disagree about books. It's how I met my good friend Alan. Is he was telling me how bad books 4 and 5 of Game of Thrones is, and I'm like, bro, you're wrong. And how about you come on? We'll argue about it. And that's how me and him became friends. And I was just visiting him 2 weeks ago, and we had an absolute, he's my best friend essentially at this point, and
yeah.
just had an absolute phenomenal time down there, by the way. But yeah, it has really grown into something more tangible in my life where I can connect with people. And this whole year, I've been going around the world meeting people. I got to meet Carlos and Yolanda from StoryTube in Ireland this year. It was a beautiful time.
Yeah.
My friend Joe in Chicago. I've been a lot of places here. I know that you've also been traveling, but it is cool because these conversations, when they're in the long form, you have the opportunity to go places that maybe just being a book channel doesn't allow you to, or being a fantasy book channel or whatever. And I've had philosophical conversations. I've had ridiculous
Mm,
conversations. And just it kind of allows you to be free, which I really like. And for me, I've really branched out of fantasy, and my name of my channel now is like it's kind of my bane in some ways because people are like, "Are you turning your back on fantasy? You're reading a lot of Kazuo Ishiguro," and I'm like, "No." I just like to read a lot of different things. I'm even looking into some spy fiction. You got me wanting to read more horror with your horror vlogs. Um,
mm,
so it's like an ongoing project, and the more people that I
yeah.
can come and on and share time with and talk with, I always come out of it feeling like I gained something. And hopefully, someone like you who comes on the show feels that way as well. So it's all positive vibes at this point.
It is. I love it. Honestly, I like when I'm saying about you guys feeling like so close and stuff, and like it's not that I'm like intimidated by the press, right? I admire it. Like I admire it so much, and I feel like I have so many friends on BookTube and who I've met through the book community who hopefully I never make other people feel like oh we're that close that nobody else can ever penetrate that or anything else, nothing like that. But just to know that because
Hmm.
all everything we do is pretty much online. So to know that like we are real, genuine people with real emotions, we actually talk to people in real life and
Yeah.
things like this. And we can make friends online and be friends, be normal about it. So I feel like it's just like it's just like so lovely just to see how normal you guys are as well. And like when you did a vlog, which I love watching your vlogs by the way,
Thank you.
your vlogs, to see you just like doing regular normal things as well. It just adds to the mystique of Jimmy Nuts. So yeah, it's always nice. It's always nice to like see you as a person and the booktuber and how they kind of connect. And same
Yeah.
with pretty much everyone on BookTube. I love seeing people grow. I love seeing people thrive on BookTube. And yeah, it's just yeah, as you say, it's just all good vibes, all positive vibes. So, and if there is any negative vibes, you got to cut that out. You got to move on. You got you got
Cut
to
it
you got to
out.
protect yourself. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've never. I've seen some people, like, we've been around a while, right? Like, you see people exit the sphere every now and then, and sometimes there's that last video of like, booktube did this and it was so bad for me, and I've
Mm.
never really felt that. I've always felt like it's me more than the platform is agnostic, I think. I told you before we went live how very close I have been to quitting YouTube in the past and recently, and had absolutely nothing to do with the booktube community. It had everything to do with me, and the things that I was going through. So I think a lot of times this is a lens at not just like the passion for reading in this instance and what we do, but also into the person. And I don't know, I'm desperate to be left alone, but also connect. It's like this very weird contradiction that I live with. But
I
this
get
is
it.
my
I get
way.
it. Like,
Like, this
well,
is how
as
I
you
step
say, like,
out,
what,
you know?
yeah, like we're being perceived, and some days you just
Hmm.
don't want to be perceived. But this is such a what we do, like you kind of have to. But then there are days when you don't want to be, and
Mhm.
it can be so confusing. It really can.
Confusing is a great way of putting it. Kristen H says, Merry Christmas to you and the missus. Love, Kristen and Ryan H. Hey, Kristen, Ryan, thank you so much. Very, very generous of you. And I hope you have a great holiday and Merry Christmas as well. I'm always flabbergasted by how just giving people are. It's always kind of takes me back. Kev says, Jimmy Nuts special works again. Thanks for the pro tips. I don't know what the Jimmy Nuts special is, but I'm glad that I can help. Kev, thank you for the 5 spot. You did not, you did not need to do that. Tom Orange is trying to get me to read James Bond. He said, "Could I interest you in James Bond?" We talked about this, Tom.
Mm,
It's on the TBR. I will do it.
nice. And Tom did enjoy most of them. Some of them hadn't aged as well, I seem
Yeah,
to recall.
it's a little up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
down, right? You know, with something that
yeah.
old, and there's a lot of baggage with some of the tropes in spy and noir, I would say. And for
I can
that, though, I
imagine.
think Tom's a pretty big fan of James Bond, and he sold it really well when he was on here on Chatting with Nuts a couple weeks back. He actually had me very much interested, which is not something I ever thought I would say. Like, for you, has there been something you never thought you'd be interested in, and BookTube got you into it?
Yeah, romantasy, like any kind of, stuff like that. I can't do it. There's no way you're gonna make me do it. Absolutely not. So like I changed my name to Gavin Reads It All because apparently I read everything. But obviously I don't. So I'm kind of a liar in terms of what my channel name is. There is genuinely nothing I wouldn't read. Like I've read Shrek romance, I've read a romance between a woman and her like when you go to the toilet for a number two. I've read a romance between her and her number two. Like there's genuinely nothing I wouldn't read, but BookTube literally made me read romantasy. And I was talking about this with Laura a couple of weeks, was it a couple of weeks now? And I say Laura in the chat as well. Hi, Laura. We
Yes.
were talking about, yeah, like Sarah J. Maas and stuff. I just never considered her romantasy because I thought this is where I get confused with genres. So this is where you can probably help me out here, Jimmy. So like with genres, I thought romantasy was the romance first and the plot is the romance and the fantasy is just the setting. It's the secondary genre. But nearly every single book that was on that romantasy shortlist was all like they all had a plot that was outside of the romance. So I'm like, are these actually romantic? Like, so say Sarah J. Maas was also in there, and I'd read Sarah J. Maas before. I never considered them romantasy. I considered them fantasy. So I don't know. I'm so confused.
You know what I think? I think we need less labels because you don't work in the
Mm,
bookstore anymore, and I don't work in a bookstore. So quite honestly, I don't care where they're shelved. It doesn't bother me. You know, I open the book and I read the words and I have an experience, and I kind of relay that. I'm getting further and further away from genres, my friend. I'm someone who
yeah.
I've read a lot of dark fantasy. I know you've read Berserk. I've read Berserk.
Mm,
I've read a lot of dark fantasy. I tend to like more depressing works and nihilistic works. It's just how I am. But everyone's so, oh, is it grimdark though, or is it not grimdark? And I'm like,
mm,
I don't care. I just simply don't care at all what it's labeled, and I don't know where that line is when it comes, like, for instance, Sarah J. Maas or romantasy in this instance. And I think as long as people are reading it and trying it and hopefully enjoying it, that's all that matters. You know what? I read my first ever Sarah J. Maas chapter the other day. I uh,
good.
I messaged you about this actually. I was going around to local bookstores and Targets and Walmarts and trying to pressure people into buying, letting me buy Wind and Truth early by Brandon
Yes.
Sanderson. And you
Yes,
did tell me I could name drop you if it helped. And in
of
fact,
course.
it actually cost me a
All
copy.
booksellers know me. It costs you no.
Yeah, I went
Oh,
in. I went to Queen's Gambit, it's a local bookstore, and I said, "Hey, I said, can I get Wind and Truth early? I'm going to pay extra money." And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I was checking. I was like, "Huh." I thought I was going to have to name drop. Gavin reads it all, and they were like, "Gavin reads it all," and they're like, "My mom was a
oh.
nun." And they were offended by the nunnery vlog, and they actually took the book back. And I didn't get it. It was very unfortunate. That obviously
What's it?
didn't happen, but I wish it had.
I knew, I knew my reputation would precede me. But see, I feel like I had a bit of a reputation when I did work in a bookstore, so I thought maybe that would get me the
Oh,
book.
you're a
Apparently, it
legend.
was the no, no. Oh, well, for the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons in the bookseller sphere, mainly mainly because when I started BookTube when I was in my like second year of being a bookseller, and so I would say anything I wanted on video, and it would be on video. It would be recorded. So if I was talking bad about any of my colleagues about, having to like being forced to sell books that I'd never read personally, but we had to sell them because they were books of the month, I would complain about that too. So there might have been one incident when I got called into the office at work, and they were like, "Gavin, you need to stop talking about this kind of stuff online." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realize." So I thought maybe that would have been what stopped you from getting Wind and Truth. I didn't realize it was me being dressed as a nun.
It was the
Which again,
nunnery.
like I can't believe I'm saying that. I think, have I hit rock bottom? Have I literally hit rock bottom?
No, we are at the tippy top, I would say. I think that there's only more room to grow at this point. Nun costumes now, feature film next week. We don't know. We just simply
Wait
don't
till,
know.
which honestly, I want to be cast in that next big musical. I can't sing, but I want to.
I've
I
heard you
can.
sing. I think you can sing.
Well, I can. I can sing, but I can't sing good. Like nothing stops me from singing. I just can't hold a tune.
I disagree, and everyone that watched the nunnery video knows that you're lying right now. You're being bashful. I respect that, but you're the
It was the
songbird of this
acoustics.
generation.
It
The
was.
acoustic. Oh
It
my
was the
god.
acoustics. It was the acoustics of the cathedral section of that nunnery. It wasn't me. It was all acoustics.
That is beautiful. It was a good acoustics, by the way. But I did read a Sarah J. Maas chapters because I found Wind
Yes.
and Truth early. I found it Thursday. I found it at Target, and this guy's like, "Oh, we have two. I'll go get one." I said, "Bro, thank you." This dude walks up. He's like, "I'm looking for Wind and Truth." I'm like, "Bro, yes, two. We're fine. Like, we're good." He's like, "Oh, we're gonna get it." And I'm like, I'm winking. I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna get it early." So this guy takes like no exaggeration, like 45 minutes to get this book out of the back because it's probably buried and buried. And so as I'm getting bored, I'm like, well, there's a Court of Thorn and Roses on the shelf. I said I might as well might as well sample it because I'm planning on reading it next year, hopefully. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, why not? You got to try things. I want to have an opinion. Everyone's read it. I would like to have my own opinion about it. And I read the first chapter,
Mhm.
and it's not like something that I was like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever read, but it was nowhere near as bad as a lot of people made it sound. I thought it was fine. That was okay.
1000%, I think. Because yeah, with Sarah J. Maas, I also resisted for a very long time. Not even just her, but like lots of other authors who I feel have been slated a little. Like I haven't read Fourth Wing yet, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. Um, and yeah, I was gonna say like I just yeah, Sarah J. It's interesting. Like I don't feel like the most recent books have been that great. Like, but I did love like the earlier stuff. I did love. I got sucked in. Like BookTube is very good at doing this. Like they're very very good at sucking you in with things that can be quite popular. Just, oh, I feel a little bit formal. I'm going to join in as well.
Sure.
So yeah, I feel like yeah, the first of Called Thorns and Roses, second one's my favorite. Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible at all. So I feel like you going in with those expectations really helps. Like really,
Ye-
really helps. So yeah, I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. But I will say the last couple that she's put out have been rather shocking. I'm not gonna lie, they've not been great. So
I I've actually heard this from Kelsey. She has read them all, and also it helps to have Kelsey because a lot of the internet is like one extreme or the next. Like it's either the worst thing ever, it's the best thing ever, and Kelsey's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's like complete crap, but I really like some of it, and it's like, well, that's a pretty fair take. Like that makes it feel approachable, right? Like I might like some of it, I might not like it. Who knows? So I've read the first chapter and I did think of you because I knew you were a Sarah J. Maas fan, or at least had read her. Watched you and Laura talk about it because Laura jumped into her romantasy arc, which by the way, I'll be chatting with Laura, who's in the chat, Laura A. Blake, formerly known as Fantasy Wash. We'll be chatting tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on her channel. So if you don't get enough of me tonight, you can get plenty of me tomorrow as well, which is great.
Oh, I can never get enough of you, honestly. I have that notification on. Get that notification on, everyone.
Get that bell ready to ring. But I did end up securing Wind and Truth early, which was pretty great. Obviously, very exciting time for Brandon Sanderson fans. And do you have any interest in reading Wind and Truth? Because I don't think have you read through all of the Stormlight Archive?
No.
I didn't think so. Okay, I didn't think so.
I want to, and I back the secret projects and everything. Like I am desperate to get into. Well, that's why I've read Skyward, and the sequel to that one as well. I really enjoyed the first Skyward book. Wasn't the biggest fan of the second one,
Hmm.
but that was fine. I read, is it The Final Empire? Is that the
Yes.
first book in the series?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mistborn. Yeah.
Yes, I read the first book of that years ago, and I cannot remember a single thing about it. Not a single thing. So I do want to get into all that, but this is my problem, Jimmy. I want to read everything, and I want to do them in these really crazy vlog projects. So I have in the back of my mind, I read all of Brandon Sanderson in a week. Or I read all of Brandon Sanderson in a month. Something like that. I
Yeah,
want to do
do a
something
month. Do a
ridiculous.
month. I don't know if a week's a good
Yeah.
idea. That's terrifying.
Well, I wanted to try and do Wheel of Time in a week, but like I felt like that would have been absolutely not right. That would not have worked. That would not have worked. I would have had to have time traveled and keep traveling back in time to complete
Just
that
keep
challenge.
taking
But like,
flights to Australia. Just
yeah, actually, yeah, that would work. That would work. Actually, no, they're ahead in time.
yeah, you
They're
would have
forward
to
in time. I
go
have
to
to
Australia, start it,
come
and then come back.
and
Yes,
then come back.
yes, yes.
That's a fantastic. That is a fantastic idea. I'd have plenty of time to read them in the layovers and the 12-hour flights, of course. But I don't know why I can't just do something normal. I really want to read like Robin Hobb. I want to read Brandon Sanderson, but like for some reason my brain is like, oh, but don't read it just cause. Like wait for a vlog project. Wait to do it for uh, a full month where you can dedicate it to just doing something silly like that. I'm just like, why can't I just read for fun?
I
Why
mean,
can't why can't I do that?
you can, but you like the spectacle, and honestly, I
I
like the
do. I
spectacle as
do.
well. I don't always have projects or really anything ever planned for what I do here, but uh,
Mm.
it does feel like an event when you do something like that, and I know a lot of people look forward to it because you provide a lot of entertainment for people.
Well, see, what I lack in intellect, I make up for in theatrics. So I will try my absolute damnedest to spin something. I'll try and spin something out of nothing. And I honestly, I've been seeing this crop up a few times the past couple of years. Maybe you have as well. In fact, actually, I feel like I might have seen you, Jimmy, in a comment of one of these videos. But I've seen like reading a Song of Ice and Fire in a week or something like that. And I
Hmm.
feel like maybe I came across one of those, and I think I actually might have seen you comment on it. I think.
I
Did you?
probably did. I probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that could also be fun because I have read A Song of Ice and Fire. I read it when I first joined BookTube, and I read it for a book club, and I blasted through it, and I didn't take in as much as I should because I was so fresh. It was like my very first book club being a part of, and I felt so much pressure, and I enjoyed the series, but I need to do a reread of it, and that's what I want to do. I want to try and do, like rereading A Song of Ice and Fire. I was thinking maybe in 2026 when it's the 30th anniversary of the first book coming out,
Ooh.
'cause maybe. But then I'm like, why wait? Why wait? I want to do it now.
Why?
But yeah, and but the thing is as well, when I see those kind of videos, they're only like 10 minutes or like 20 minutes long. And I'm like, sure, you can talk about Song of Ice and Fire in 5 hours and 27 minutes at least, like minimum. You know what I mean? Like my shtick is I love a long vlog. I love a video that lasts 5, 6, 7 hours. And I love it when everyone talks about their spoiler-filled thoughts. They talk about everything. They dissect every single page that they read. That is what I love. So if I did a Song of Ice and Fire, it might not be in a week, but it would be like a 10-hour video probably because I'd be talking spoilers. I'd be
I
talking
would
about
love
everything.
that. I would love that very
I would
much.
love
I
that too.
mean, 10 hours is honestly just a good start. I talked, I think, for 3.5 hours with Bookborn about uh, relationships and family in A Song of Ice and Fire. And we're planning on going back and doing religion in A Song of Ice and Fire as well, which would be a
Ooh.
lot of fun. But I would die for a 10-hour reading vlog for you in A Song of Ice and
Mm.
Fire. I would, as long as you consult me, not to get right opinions, but like I just want to hear it as you're doing it. I would love that very, very
So
much. I think.
voice notes. I need to send you voice notes. I actually brought out my copy of the Game of Thrones, like for good luck for this live show. I was like, I'm going to bring my copy down, and it's going to give me so much like luck for this because I know it's like one of your favorites, and
Yes.
I needed the inspiration. I was like, this is a big moment, and I can't, I can't write on my beautiful copies of them. I'm gonna have to buy normal editions. I'm gonna have to buy like regular standard Game of
Well,
Thrones editions. So
they
like,
just
because I
released a
can't,
new set.
and I want it.
They're so
I want it because
nice.
yeah, I really like those covers. But I think it's just American because books 3 and 5 are split into
Yep.
two in the UK, so we have like 7 books instead of 5. And so I think the ones that were released recently are just like American. I don't think they're available in the UK. I'll import them. I don't mind doing that because I want them.
Well,
But
maybe a really
yeah,
good friend will send you a set. Maybe a
no.
really good friend for Xmas would do that for you. Who knows? Maybe you should send your
I mean,
good
who
friend
knows?
your address. That might be a good start. Bookish, my good friend Bookish. So I had Bookish is in a different part of BookTube where he does a lot of literary fiction. He's big fan of Percival Everett, who I'm dying to read more from. And I had Bookish on, and he ended up doing Jimmy Stack July, where he read a bunch of fantasy books, and he did not like Game of Thrones, which was a bummer. But I thought he was very fair to the book. And then there was other ones that he actually ended up enjoying, which was really great. So I have been known to influence people to either reread or read Game of Thrones for the first time. And Kelsey's going through them right now. And I'm still planning on doing a live stream for each book. We just need to find some time when she's not busy and I'm not busy and to do it. But I just love watching people go through it. I try to be very careful not to try influence them too much. Like, hey, think about it this way, or like I'll maybe ask probing questions at times, but I just love watching people go through it kind of unfiltered and for their own experience. It still to this day, after how many times I've read it, brings me like the most joy of anything in reading because it's just so near and dear to my heart. Shelf Stay Unstable Amanda says, started Wind and Truth and very confused. It's my first Sanderson book. That is very brave of you. And then Benjamin said, have you read Jacqueline Carey, Gavin? She's a combination of so many BookTube favorites. And this is actually one I was going to bring up as well.
I have not. No, I apologize, Benjamin. I have not.
You don't have to
I feel
apologize. You don't have to
I do.
apologize,
No,
Gavin.
I always feel like I'm one of the worst booktubers to come to for like recommendations and like for reading like some like great literature because I read a lot of silly stuff. I'm very nostalgic. I'll read a lot of Fear Street. I'll read a lot of Goosebumps. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Animals. I'll read a lot of silly stuff that nobody's reading these days, which means I miss out on reading so many great books that a lot of people are like talking about now. So a lot of times I do feel a little bit out of the loop with some conversations. So I need to, well, one, I need to make a definitive list of authors and books that I kind of missed out on, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Jacqueline Carey would be on there, I think.
Well, her writing is beautiful and she definitely goes there. I think her world building is actually pretty cool as well. I read the first one and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I wanted to continue on
Mm.
with it. I think you would really get something out of it. I think you'd be at the very least entertained by it and appreciate the way she writes. And kind of the cool thing is like it's been a little bit forgotten. Like it is talked about, but it is kind of been forgotten in many ways. And a lot of series are like that. It's one of the things that I love doing actually is trying to find these like lost gems that people have forgotten about over time. Like Many Colored Land by Julian May is an example that I bring up all the time. But Kushiel's Dart, I think, is kind of in that risky spot where like it could be forgotten outside of this niche at least. So someone like you reading it and hopefully loving it could be so cool to watch a not even like a resurgence, but maybe a first real hype train because you have reach. I mean, you have an audience. No pressure.
Like, it's always so weird to think of that though, isn't it? It's like
Oh yeah, people
I
listen.
feel yeah, I still feel like I talk to the void. I still feel like when I'm making silly videos, I feel like no one's gonna watch this and it's fine because I can just dance like no one's watching. It's still weird. It still feels weird that even just one person sees the weird stuff I do.
You
It
still
really
do a
does.
great job of making it feel like you're talking to someone one on one. You do a really nice job of that, and that's something I think at some point everyone kind of loses, and the really good creators don't, and you certainly haven't lost that yet. I always feel like you're talking to me, which is really nice.
I am. I am literally. I have a cardboard cutout of you behind my camera, and I'm literally talking to you every single time. Every time, every time I'm on the camera. I'm literally talking to you.
I
It's
hope
true.
it's one of my old wrestling pictures. That's what I like to imagine, like me with a mean face or something like that. That would make me happy. Uh, Brian
Well,
said,
I mean, sorry, I was gonna say like you have kind of inspired me to go into personal training and getting myself back in like fitness and stuff. So I do have you to thank for
"Hey,
that. So yeah,
that makes
yeah.
me if that is indeed true, that brings me great joy because I did see you doing some lat pull downs on the Instagram the other day, and I said, Gavin,
Oh, yes.
go get it, go get those gains. I love it. I love it.
I did watch the live show with you and Tom, and I was like, oh, this is just too much testosterone.
There was
I
a
need
lot of
to
muscle
actually.
tissue. Yeah.
There was a lot of muscle, so I was like, you know what? I feel a little bit left out, a little bit formal, so I'll get back on it.
Hey, that's awesome. I love that. I love seeing you get in there before Jan 1st. Nothing wrong with New Year's resolutions, but getting in there before the crowd, you're going to have a routine. It's not going to be as busy. It's a really good idea. And also, I don't know about you, but I'm eating a lot of cookies. I'm having a couple of drink. I'm a little looser. You got to get home and burn some of that off. So, what are you
Yeah.
drinking there, by the way? What do we got
Oh,
here?
well, see, I saw you in the chat before we even went live, and you said that you were coked up or something. So I was like, what in the world is going on tonight?
We
So I
polished off
ended
some
up
Hennessy tonight. That's what we did.
Yeah, you got the Hennessy. I just have red wine. I did the same thing when I was on Laura's channel. I was like, it's late, and why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? It kind of makes it feel like a more of like, sitting in the pub having a pint kind of deal, like which is the vibe that I'm going for most times. I want to have a conversation, not an interview, but just a conversation. And sometimes it's fun to have a drink. I'm a huge fan of Hennessy. It's actually my favorite drink, and I am sad that it's all gone. Makes me sad. Brian said you were very understanding, Jimmy. Brian, I'm always trying to be understanding, but also I greatly respect your opinion on books, and I think that you're brilliant. So I always will have to listen to what you said, even if it's you hating on one of my favorite books of all time. I will still stand there. I Do you get like personally attached to books? Like, do you get really defensive about your opinions? Because I don't get that vibe from you at all.
Absolutely not. And I was thinking about this before coming on here as well. Because I was, watching, how you were watching some of me beforehand to get you all prepared for tonight. I was
Yeah.
watching some of your past Chat with Nuts, and when, every time you ask someone about like what's like a book you would recommend or like what's your favorite book, I actually don't have a favorite book. Isn't that weird?
That is
I don't
weird,
actually.
actually. You should fix that. Yes.
I don't think I have a favorite book ever. Like, there's not a single book in the world that I would defend to death. Like, there isn't a single book that I would get into a wrestling ring and fight someone with just because they have a difference of opinion with. I don't. It's so weird, but I love reading. I love books, but I don't love just one specific book. I
Hmm.
don't, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I genuinely don't know what's wrong with me.
Well, I don't. Well, so that's different. But I mean, do you have a book that you would like the book you would take with you on a deserted island? Is literally everyone says in every book video. Like, do you even have that or not at all?
What book would I take? No, genuinely, I couldn't even name one off the top of my head. I don't even know what a book is at this point. I, when I've got me, do I need a book? Come on, I am the entertainer. I'm kidding.
So if I
Um,
was good at this, I would clip that, and that'd be the short with the link to the podcast. Like Gavin reads it all exposed. He in fact did not read it all. Like that would be. But I'm bad at this YouTube thing, so I won't do that. But I love that clip. That's good. It's good stuff.
Literally, does Gavin read? That's the question. This is an expose. I didn't realize I was coming on here to get exposed. But no, honestly, I can't think of a single book that I would take to a desert island. I feel like it would be a great video idea for me to try and come up with some of my favorite books that I've read, but I don't think any of them would be my favorite book. Does that make sense? That's so weird. That's so random. But I'm probably confusing, but
I think
I
I
can't think.
kind of I know what you're saying because like the answer could change daily, but for me there is one book that's just like always going to be the number one book, and I really don't know if it's ever going to be topped, which is A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin.
I didn't want to say it. I wanted to say it, but you got that first. I really did.
I mean, it's just it meant so much to me, and to where that's why I'm talking to you right now. Like that's how I got here. So it's really hard for me not to put a lot of stock into that. It's also unfair for every other book ever. Like, sorry, you guys are all screwed at this point. I don't know what you could do to top something like that. Um, but we're talking about like favorites. We're talking about having a drink, relaxing. If you could pick an author, dead or alive, who would you share a glass of wine with?
Anne Radcliffe. I would genuinely love to talk to Anne Radcliffe. Do
I
you know
was
Anne
about to say
Radcliffe?
I'm about to get exposed as a who is Anne Radcliffe? I thought you were going to say Anne Rice, and I was like, I know Anne Rice, but Anne Radcliffe, is this a real author or is this?
No, no. Well, you're definitely a real author. I've actually never read Anne Rice, though. I do want to read Interview with a Vampire. I would love to read that. But no, Anne Radcliffe, she essentially pioneered the Gothic genre. She didn't create it. She wasn't the first author to write Gothic literature, but
Okay.
she was a pioneer. She was a pioneer for it. So she wrote in like the 1780s, 1790s, and definitely my favorite Gothic classic of all time is The Italian by Anne Radcliffe. Also, Evie just mentioned The Mysteries of Udolpho.
She's
Yes,
very
like
excited
that is,
about it.
yeah, that is Anne Radcliffe's most popular one, but I prefer The Italian. And oh gosh, I love the fact that she wrote during a time when like Mary Wollstonecraft, right? She is the mother of Mary Shelley who wrote Frankenstein.
Hmm.
And at the time she was advocating for the rights of women. So she was Mary Wollstonecraft was creating these pamphlets called The Vindications of the Rights of Women, The Vindication of the Rights of Men. And I love the fact that Anne Radcliffe was writing the Gothic genre at that time.
Hmm.
And I genuinely feel like we wouldn't have the Gothic genre that we have today if it wasn't for her. You know, and
Yeah.
there's so many things that I feel like she took from like the political landscape of that time in terms of like what women were oppressed by and how women were presented in fiction, and she made it her own. So I feel like I would love to sit down, chat with Anne Radcliffe, talk to her about what inspired her, like how did she write her heroines, and also the fact that a lot of the because I went to university, I did my dissertation on the Italian and the Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe, and I did my dissertation arguing with the critics of Anne Radcliffe because they were saying that her heroines are not feminist. They're saying that they're terrible heroines because they have feeling, they have emotions, they have so much sensibility that they faint and stuff like that. And I did my dissertation arguing with those critics, being like, you are wrong. Like this was the time, I felt like I did such a good job of doing that. So I would just honestly love to talk to her about that. And I haven't reread The Italian or any Anne Radcliffe since uni, so I'm worried that I wouldn't enjoy it as much now. But I swear, like The Italian is amazing and nobody reads it. I recommend it and nobody reads it. I'm getting fed up now, Jimmy.
All right.
I'm like, what should I even recommend anymore?
I'm getting fed up too. Honestly, hearing you talk, I'm feeling
Yeah.
electricity coming through my veins. And honestly, folks out there, you're letting down Gavin, letting
Hmm.
down the big dog. I don't like it. Don't like it. You need to
I don't like.
get that in the cart. Order it now. I'm gonna order it. I really will.
As you should. Honestly, it's so dramatic. It has like a scheming monk in it, and it's like two lovers getting forced apart, and it has a nunnery in it as well. So it's like
That's the
perfect.
seller. That's the seller.
It's perfect. Honestly, it's so dramatic, but it is older language. It was written in the 1790s, but it's just so beautiful. It's
Your
so
your
beautiful. Goes
influence is coming out. Bees Knees says it's on the TBR, Gavin. I'm in there. Someone said, "Who's my pick?" Sharing a glass of Henny with Mark Lawrence. Not quite. I would probably go with George R. R. Martin. That would probably be my
Mhm.
pick. I'm trying to think of anyone else I would even really care to meet. I mean, I've had Dinner with Steven Erickson, which was phenomenal. So that one's off the bucket list. I would say him and Martin were probably my top two. I think I would love to talk to Robin Hobb. That'd be cool. I really
Mm.
like Robin Hobb.
What
Um,
a few people have been meeting Robin Hobb recently because isn't
yeah,
Robin
she's at
Hobb like her?
Dragonsteel. All these nerds are
Yeah.
out in Salt Lake City doing whatever you do out there with the Mormon temples and things. I don't understand. Gavin, do you understand all that? I don't get it. I don't get
I
it.
don't get the appeal myself, no. Sorry, don't. I would honestly love it because I've been seeing like so many people on YouTube, on BookTube, like talking to like these really big authors and stuff. I would love for you to sit down with Mr. Martin and
Oh man.
just chatting. Oh, that would break the internet, I think. I don't think the internet's ready.
Oh, you know what? Bookish is an author. I could sit down and have a drink with Bookish. I like that idea. I could do that with Philip Chase too. I could have my friend Amanda on. It's actually kind of amazing how many people I know that have written books and I can't seem to
Mm-hmm.
formulate sentences. It's actually quite amazing. I want to go back to something though, real quick, not to be too sporadic with you, but your dissertation. I mean, we're talking about academics here. I think you undersell yourself a little bit. Like you've put in the time, you put in the work, you know what you're doing. Like you know how to read. I know we were questioning whether you knew what a book was, but you're not just a pretty face. I think that you have it all. You can talk about books in a way that is compelling and meaningful. So you shouldn't sell yourself so short.
I lost so much of my analytical skills over the years because uni did put me. I've never been in a reading slump, but I have had a period of time after uni where I didn't want to pick up a book because I just hated how uni made me feel with reading and my
Mm,
relationship with reading. I hated how it made me feel about that. So
mm.
like I loved it. I loved analyzing books. I loved looking deeper into it. But I feel like I've definitely lost a lot of those skills over time because of like how much I hated some aspects of it. So I feel like you may read in Gossip Girl, okay, may dissect in the Princess Diaries, things like that. I can't exactly write a dissertation on. I mean, maybe I can, but
Well, those
I
38-page
definitely
scripts
think,
that you talked about, that's where it comes from.
look, I mean, it had fantastic analysis in it on, the relationship between Blair and Serena, and like the life of Manhattan and this and the other. Great. But like in terms of like actually being able to share my thoughts and feelings on books on YouTube, and as well, I love doing spoiler reviews because then I can actually talk about a book. And that's why a lot of my vlogs when I'm doing spoiler reviews are like 5, 6 hours long because I love to like actually go into it. But I don't know about you, but trying to do a spoiler-free review on things is some of the hardest things I've ever
It's
had to
very
do.
difficult.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Yeah, I liked it. I liked the theme of friendship. I liked this character. They were great. I liked how this had a twist in it. How do you say that like 55 million times and make it sound different every time?
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know how
some
you
of the
say that.
things that you have to focus on are some of the things that I think general readers don't care about as much, right? Because you can really dive into a lot of like the techniques of the writing, unless you want to give examples. Obviously, that would have spoilers in it, and that's kind of the way I started going with my new spoiler review. Is like, let's talk about the writing. Like, let's talk about what the author is trying to do, how well they did it, and people liked my reviews, but it is hard because sometimes you feel like you're not saying as much as you want to be saying. Uh, though, I guess that's part of the skill of it, right? Like that it's a difficult thing to do.
Oh, 100%. Which is why I honestly love the way that people do approach reviews on BookTube because they're just so varied, so much variety,
Hmm.
and I love book club discussions. Like, I love it when uh like so many channels do like either book clubs or like as you said before, you did a video with Bookborn about like actually dissecting like particular
Yeah.
themes and things in an actual book. It's like I love those kinds of discussions, and I would love to see more of that. I know it's harder as well because they don't get as many views on YouTube because people don't really want to be spoiled sometimes, or they might not be particularly interested in learning about that kind of thing or like that particular thing. But it's the content I love the most. And
Hmm.
if I can ever get an opportunity where I can, you know, try and be a little bit more intellectual, then I will definitely, I need to get my glasses on. I would definitely do that more. I would 100% love to do more, like going like fully in. And I was gonna do that with One Piece. Like for one time years ago when I saw One Piece, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do uh these particular themes. I'm gonna go into this. But then I'm like, I'm never gonna contribute any new thoughts or original ideas in any of that.
Yeah.
And it would be a very intimidating space to put myself into as well. So
Yeah.
I had those sorts of feelings to do that with a specific series, and it just never happened. It just never happened.
Well, there's still time, and also there's
Mm,
plenty of opportunity out there for many many different things. I've always felt like if I was going to do something like that, it would almost be separate. It would be its own thing and stand alone over
mm,
here on this little thing. Like I do a Song of Ice Fire podcast, I have a Stormlight podcast, and those are separate to what I do here. This is always kind
mm,
of my main event. Like this is the main thing I do, but like
mm.
those are where I get to
It
talk
is.
about spoilers and all that fun stuff, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you mentioned this, I think, whenever you were talking to Laura, that you're easy to please, and
Oh yes.
I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. Do you ever feel, I mean, on a platform where some people believe to be the arbiter of truth and they know what is good and what is bad, I mean, does that ever, like, does that ever bother you? Does it give you a bit of an imposter syndrome talking about books, or are you completely at like peace with the idea of being easy to please?
It's a tough one because yeah, I could share any thought on something, and I can absolutely love. I can overlook a lot of problems with books sometimes because I'm like, okay, nothing's ever going to be perfect to me. So I'm just going to treat every single book as if, like, well, I don't know how you approach reading, but like sometimes I'll go into a book and I'll think, okay, I'm just going to start at 1 star at the very start. Before I start, I'm going to start 1 star. And then the more I read,
Interesting.
like the rating like goes up and up and up. It has to like really offend me and really pay me off in order for me to like really hate. And I have hated. I'm a big hater on certain books. But that's why but that's why it's so unnatural for me to like hate those books because I am pretty laid back. I'm pretty relaxed and chilled with my reading. That like I can forgive so much. I can overlook so much. But then there are things that I can't do overlook. But yeah, yeah, when I'm presenting my ideas and my reviews, and I feel like people are gonna disagree or anything, I don't really because I've had comments over the years. I have had a lot of comments, disagreeing and stuff like in a very like aggressive way. And I've learned over time to just kind of like tune that out, to like
Hmm.
drown it out, not listen to it, and just be like, every single reading experience is so subjective, and everyone comes out something in a different way. I could be reading something at a really great time in my life where I love something, or I could be in a really depressed state and then something speaks to me even more. Everything is so unique to the individual experience that even reading a book and having an opinion on a book is yeah, I never think of myself as somebody being like, oh, I'm the be all end all of this book review. Like, if you disagree with me, you're out. If you agree with me, you're in.
Hmm.
It's always like, I genuinely don't care what other people think of books. Like, if they don't like it, I'm probably still gonna love it. And if they love it, there's still a chance of me not liking it. Like, I don't mean that in like such a like blasé way and like, oh, I don't care what people think. But I mean, I don't care if like they hate something or they love something. I will read a book because I want to read a book, and I will hope that the people who watch me will still read a book even if I hate it, because it could still be
Yeah.
their favorite book of all time.
Yeah.
I would hate to put somebody off a book that could have been their new favorite book just because I didn't like it. Or
So with
it's
you.
so like yeah, so like why am I easy to please? Sometimes like, a lot of that is because I used to be a middle grade booktuber. Like that used to be my thing.
Hmm.
That used to be my shtick. So I did have to put myself in the shoes of, I'm not the target audience, so I need to put myself in the shoes of somebody who isn't that target audience, and that kind of helped me, with approaching adult books, like books for grown-ups and stuff like that, and just kind of not making it about me and not centering myself in this experience, this review or reading experience. It just, yeah, I just take myself out of the equation altogether. I don't even think about me. Sometimes I'm not even there.
I I really like that answer. I always try to think about other people when I'm reading, and I like, and biggest thing to take away from that is like I'm not objective, and I am just hoping that however I speak about this book is in a way that you can decide whether or not it works for you, and not just taking on whatever opinion I have. Right? I'm very skeptical about just reinforcing things or validation. I think a lot of people watch videos and consume media to be validated when it comes to reviews and reactions, and I would love if that weren't the case. I think I would rather it not be just for validation. I would rather be part of a dialogue, maybe is a better way of looking at it. And I've had this conversation actually many times with Murphy, and we've wondered if there's a way of like reviewing or a way of doing a video that could like what's the word, like dissuade people from wanting to be validated. Like, is there a way of doing that? And I'm honestly not terribly sure. Shay also said, I would love if one of you did a spoiler video of reading the Walking Dead comics. I think it would be amazing. That's actually pretty high on my Western Comics TBR, which is not very long, but I think it's one of the series that I would like to try. And Connor has a question for us. Said, are you more likely to finish a book you're hating or DNF? I stopped hate reading this year. If I'm not enjoying by 50% mark, I move along to the next book. Where are you at with this? Where are you at with this, Gavin?
Oh, I have many a thought, and I would love to review. Firstly, 2 years ago, I did do a spoiler review on all of the Walking Dead comics. I think that was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours long. So I would recommend
He's
checking out because
already
I
got you
actually,
covered. That's amazing.
and I legit cry at the end of it as well. I got invested. I read it because the show was ending, so I was like, ah, this is a good time to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was years ago. I would love to redo it if I could. I always think, some of my booktube videos from years ago, I would love to just take down because I'm thinking, gosh damn, the quality's terrible, my thoughts are probably terrible. I feel like I've come quite a long way since then. So like sometimes I try and shun a lot of the older stuff. But yeah, that is one in case you do want a long chat. Actually, I think it might be 4.5 hours long. Anyway,
It's amazing.
I I just love the idea of having all my thoughts on something in one place and just like
Yeah.
keeping it there. So if I ever want to go back to it, I can. Not that I would. But in terms of like finishing a book or hating or DNF, it's very dependent. I have DNF two books in the last week, and I will DNF a book if it's boring. I will DNF a book if I feel like it's wasting my time. I won't DNF a book if I'm hating it, because sometimes I ask myself, okay, why do I hate it? Is this an intentional thing? Is
Hmm.
this because I disagree with character choices? Is this because I disagree with the plot? Like, is this not the kind of book that I love? Like, should I continue wasting my time with this book? Or does it have something to say? So if I find myself just incredibly bored and I find myself being like, yeah, my life will not change if I finish this book. Like, what's the point? Do I really want to know the end of it? Not really. And if I don't want to know the end, I won't continue on because say if I have like a 600-page book and I want to DNF at 300, but I decide to continue on and I read those 300 pages and nothing's changed. And in fact, everything's worse. Everything is worse. I hate it even more, and I feel like I've just wasted 300 pages. I could take those 300 pages and
Hmm.
read 300 pages of a book that I'm enjoying. So I will 100% DNF a book if I think it's wasting my time. And if I think it's like genuinely terrible. But also, it would also depend if I'm reading it for a project. If I promise myself that I would read it also that I can do a spoiler-filled review so that I'm reading it for someone else, I
Hmm.
would have DNF'd the Princess Diaries books at book 4 or 5 if I could. But because I wanted to read it for the viewers, because I wanted to do like a read the Princess Diaries so you don't have to kind of video, then I will torture myself and continue on. But I will DNF very easily, and sometimes it's not the book's fault, sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's just
Oh
not my
yeah.
thing.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's fine.
definitely.
Sometimes we won't know that until we start the book. So I would say, and anyone who doesn't, DNF, like say Tom Orange, like just think of all the time you could be dedicating to books you're enjoying if you did that.
Or
Just
lifting weights because we know he's a meathead.
exactly. Exactly. Use your time wisely. This was like a very morbid like response that I gave to a question I got recently because someone was saying and asking like how do you get the motivation to like and this was in terms of fitness, like how do you have the motivation, especially in winter? But like I would apply this to anything. I'd be like, we're not going to be here forever. we are gonna die eventually. Like, please use your time wisely. Like,
Hmm.
life is such a blessing. Life is such a gift. Like, I'm sorry for being deep, but like, I have come to terms with it. Like, now I'm in my 30s, and I'm coming to terms with my life, my morality, and I don't want to waste my time. Like, this is something I've learned in my 30s. I genuinely want to spend every single moment, appreciating life and not wasting it on bad books or not looking after myself if I can possibly help it. And life's too short. Like, I know it's
Hmm.
cliche, but life's too short. Please look after your time. It's the most precious thing. In reading bad books, just reading in general takes up so much time. Do it reading what you love, do it what you're enjoying. Do not waste it. And that's so cliche. So
No,
cliche.
but it's a cliche for a reason. As someone who
Mm.
also just turned 34 last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. I was gonna do I usually stream on my birthday just because like I don't do much else for my birthday, but I was actually with Alan in Florida and I was golfing and we did a live
Oh,
stream on
nice.
his channel. It was unhinged. It was very fun. It was honestly the best. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Now there are some people who say, "Well, Gavin, I like to spend my time hate reading books because I
Mhm.
like the rant." And to that I say, "Hey, do you? Do you, boo
Yeah.
boo?" That's
Yeah, you do you. Especially if you're a booktuber who does that as well, get those views. Seriously, I appreciate the hustle. Because hey, rant reviews, they get some views,
that's what people
honestly. I
love.
don't They do love that, but I don't personally do them myself unless I've read the book. And like, I never go into a review thinking I'm gonna rant review. I never do that. But there have
Hmm.
been two times when I've started a book and I've hated it so much, I had to talk about it. I had to get off my chest. And yeah, of course those videos bloody did well, and I knew they would. But I never go into it wanting that, It's like,
Yeah, it goes back to that passion that I talked about earlier. Like people just want to see
mm,
passion. A lot of the
hmm
mundane of day to day life kind of zaps that passion away. So when you see someone else acting out, whether positive or negative, it's just like it's intoxicating at some point. And
yeah.
I also feel, especially with you, I've never felt like you're going into it with that idea because you can tell. I at least I think I can tell. Maybe that's too high of an opinion of myself, but I
Mm,
can tell when someone's went into it with the wrong
mm,
attitude, I guess
yeah.
maybe, or wrong
Mm.
motivations, and then that always to me feels engineered and kind of crappy. I've never been a huge fan of it. Shauna wants to know: have you ever secretly DNF'd a vlog project book? Googly eyes.
I've I stopped reading the Princess Diaries books, which was so silly. Like, I read the first 10, but I was supposed to read 12. I had to DNF. I read the original 10. I couldn't read the last two books. It was too weird. It was too awful. And I've never actually like DNF'd, because like, say if I read all, and I did read like all of the Fear Street books, and I did that over like 2 months, I think. So that was like 51 books. Some of those were god awful. Like, I'm talking 1 stars, 1.5 stars. And but going back to what you said before about like people going in with the intent, I would never. This is a little bit drama. I don't know if you want some tea, Jimmy. I don't want
Oh,
some tea.
give
But like,
me all the tea.
I never go into reviews mean-spirited. Like, I feel like that is just it's not my place, and
It's not
I
you.
don't like it when people, yeah, and I also don't like watching things that are mean-spirited because like it just feels wrong. But yeah, back in 2020, and a lot of people already know this because it was a thing. But back in 2020, I did my worst books of the year, and that's like the typical thing that happens. And it blew up a little bit on Twitter because I had a lot of authors who weren't even in the video and who were never tagged in the video.
Oh no. Oh no.
Literally, yeah, they went on the defense. They attacked. They went on the attack, and it was a whole bunch of like middle grade authors, a whole bunch of children's picture book authors, and I never mentioned a single middle grade or children's book in that worst books video. And I had so much hate from it, and I was like, gosh, damn, like this is something that people do every year, and I didn't go in with you know the mean-spirited intent of you know s- what's the word, bad mouth in these books or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, but like a lot of people. a lot of authors who weren't again tagged or part of it took offense to it. And like that was, I think, probably one of my first controversies. And I feel like what they didn't understand was because they didn't actually watch the video, is that they see someone saying, "Oh, these are the worst books," and they automatically assume it's in bad faith. It's a mean-spirited thing. But if they had watched the video, they'll say, "Oh, I'm drinking Bucks Fizz, which is like the cheapest drink you can ever get, like alcoholic beverage." And I'm just being silly. And I'm talking about like books that were popular back in the 90s or something. Like I was talking about the Cheetah Girls. The Cheetah Girls, like the young adult series that came out in the 90s, or
Wow, that's a
like,
throwback.
an absolute throwback. So I'm just like,
Whoa.
if they knew like my heart wasn't malicious, or like I wasn't trying to be mean or awful about all of these things, I feel like they would have come out of it being like, okay, yeah, he didn't,
Yeah.
he didn't. They just say worst and they think the worst. Like it was an eye-opening experience, especially since I was only on BookTube for like a year and a half at that time. So yeah, it was a big thing. I mean, I remember reading about it in the university article actually. Somebody asked me if they could write about it, and it got published in a university article about
What?
authors and reviewers and book spaces and being able to share, your thoughts on books and not having people in face. So it was actually a university article. I have it linked somewhere. I have a
I
I
didn't
had
know
it
you were
saved
part
because I
of
was
this
like,
controversy. I did not vet you as a guest very well, or I would have had a lot of
although
questions.
I buried a lot of trauma. The things that have happened in my lifespan on BookTube that I've buried. I've buried it. So now I'm squeaky clean. I'm squeaky. You can't dig up any dirt on me anymore. Like everyone who was involved, you'll never be able to talk to them again. So
Ad suitable,
I took
as they say.
I took care of that. Ad suitable, ad friendly. Yeah.
That is incredible. Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that though. That definitely sucks. Um, if you had to pick one middle grade series or book that you think
Mm,
adults should read again or for the
mm.
first time, what would it be?
Well, I'm glad you asked because this would definitely count towards being like one of my favorite books of all time. I mean, I named my cats after two of the characters from it, but it's a series called Frostheart by Jamie Littler. So if you're a fan of like How to Train Your Dragon meets Avatar: The Last Airbender, like Frostheart is essentially the one for you. I love it so much, and it's been a good few years. It's only a trilogy. It came out in like 2019 to 2021. And Lynn is absolutely correct. Frostheart about a yes. Yeah, I just love it so much, and I feel like it's one of those ones that kind of transcends age ranges a little bit. You know how a little bit like Percy Jackson is sometimes
Yeah.
considered middle grade or it's considered young adult, but you know what? Anyone can read it. And I generally feel like Frostheart, it transcends.
Okay.
I'm the body average.
Hey, Shauna said it, not me. Uh, I okay. I can check this out. There has been. Oh man, there was a. If Alan's in the chat, please let me know.
Mm,
But there was a YA book that he had on his top list, and then Zara, who's another booktuber, also loved this book. I think it's called like Fireborn or something. So that's a YA book I'm actually going to read because I've never, never read a YA book that I know of, which is very strange. I think I've read more middle grade books actually. So I haven't
mm,
read middle grade in a very long time. I've been thinking about revisiting some of my favorites, but I will try out Frostheart. I will put that on the list. If you had to make me read that or the gothic one
mhm.
that I've already forgotten the name of,
The
Italian,
Italian,
the
yes.
Italian, which one would you have me read first?
Oh, you might like Frostheart more. So
Well,
maybe
now I
that
want
one.
to
Because
read the other one just to prove you wrong. I just kind of want to go against the grain
maybe,
now.
maybe that was my goal. Maybe
That's
my
what I was
goal
just
was for you to read
thinking.
the one I didn't pick. Can't read me. You might be good at reading these books, but you can't read me. But
Gavin the
uh,
Unreadable.
literally, Gavin reads it all, but you can't read me. Uh, I, so this is why I feel like I'm terrible at recommending books. I can uh recommend experiences. Like I would recommend booking a haunted castle and reading a horror book. and I can recommend doing that. But like reading like specific books, sometimes I'm like, damn, and I don't know if you'll have the same response that I had,
Yeah,
but
it's a lot of
I think
pressure to put a single book out there, but
yeah,
I do genuinely like getting a list of from guests and then going and at least adding the TR. I buy them because if I buy it, I will read it. That is, I mean, it might take me a couple of years. I'm not saying I've read everything I have, but it means that the
yeah.
chances of it being read are high, way higher. So I will check that out. I will check out some middle grade. The middle grade I always talk about is by Carl Duker, and he wrote sports books, and I loved them so much. It was always like underprivileged kid making it on the sports team, friends with the kids not in his social class, and how that like just like very similar books throughout my childhood that I read. But those books to this day are some of my like most impactful reads that I've ever had. I remember like weeping in seventh grade English class. Like, if you're like, "Are you actually doing the book report?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am. I'm hurting over here."
Never, I've never heard of that. I wonder if that made its way to the UK.
No
Maybe
way,
not.
dude.
No.
I was thinking, oh, I bet a bunch of people like these books. So I like went and looked. No one has read these books. It was just my middle school, I think. But
Wow.
yeah, so my friend, this is actually one of my favorite things I've ever received. Is he taught at the middle school that we went to, and they ended up closing the library, closing the school. Actually, kind of crazy. There's not a library back in my old school district. Very strange now. But when they were auctioning off the books, he bought the first Carl Duker book with the library card with my name on it from 2002 or
Ah,
2003, and he gifted it to me 2 Christmases ago. One of the like
wow.
best gifts anyone's ever given me, because that book, it was called In the Devil's Court, and it was about a kid making a deal with the devil to be good at
Ooh,
basketball. Very typical story, and
yeah.
that is also one of the huge pieces of why I'm here and why I love reading is, and that was my first Carl Duker book, and I read like 8 from him. I loved them so very much. So I wonder how I would feel about those if I read those today. So
Yeah.
maybe Frostheart will be like the sampler. Maybe if I can get behind Frostheart, I'm like, I can do this. Maybe I will go and bravely tread the ground I once walked on, and I just don't want to ruin that experience. That's the big thing. Like, I just don't want to ruin what I had with those books.
That is definitely a fantastic point you bring up because you don't want to ruin those memories. I unfortunately did that with Goosebumps. I
I was going to
love
bring that
Goosebumps
up.
so much. Seriously, like my childhood hero was R.L. Stein. He got me into reading. I
Me
love that
too.
man. Oh, he's just an absolute diamond, isn't he? Like I just love him. If I could marry him, I would. But unfortunately, I can't. I think he's taken. But I reread the Goosebumps books back in 2021, and I part of me really wishes I didn't. Like it's my most popular video,
It's a
and
good video.
it still gets so many views a year. Like seriously, I'm like, please stop now because one, terrible quality on that video. Uh, and two, I'm not the most positive in it because the thing with me as well, like I'm incredibly honest as well. Like I can't, I have a bad poker face. You can tell when I'm lying. Like literally, when I was on Love Bomb with Laura last week, she mentioned a study in drowning, and she was saying how much she loves it. And I was sitting there because I didn't like it. I was sitting there like, oh yeah. And I had someone in the chat who knows I don't like a study in drowning. Know that I had such a pained look on my face because I can't lie. I can't hide my feelings about something. See, Jimmy, if you mentioned a book that I don't like, I, I wouldn't want to offend you, but I wouldn't be able to control my face, essentially. So, so I reread all the Goosebumps books because they were my childhood. They were literally my childhood. They got me into
Yeah.
reading. They do not quite hold up as much as they used to. I will always cherish those memories, but I always say rereading nostalgic books is sometimes a great thing and the worst thing you could do at the same time. Do not jeopardize those memories of
Hmm.
reading those sports middle grades that you loved. Like it, sometimes it's not worth it. Just remember how little Jimmy felt and just carry that feeling forward.
That's why I can't reread Heart of a Champion by Carl Duker. It was the first book that ever made me cry, and I just don't want to go back to it. And I
No.
just I'm terrified of it. You know what I was just thinking about though? A children's book that I read. I don't think it'd be middle grade. It might be middle grade. Is Ice Dragon by George R. R. Martin.
Mm,
It's
mm,
like
yeah.
60 pages and illustrated. Phenomenal. phenomenal book
Mhm.
about a little girl and some dragons. And the publisher did something very dirty. Said in the same universe as A Song of Ice and Fire. It is not. It's actually not at all. It just because it had a dragon in it, they're like, oh, we'll sell. Like this will sell if we do it. They're turning it into a movie, a children's movie, actually.
Oh
So
no way! Funny you mentioned that because I did read that last week or the week before.
what?
Literally, yeah, I know,
Let's
I did,
go.
and I was suckered into it because yeah, it has on my copy on the cover. There's that little thing that you can't take off
Yep.
in the world of Game of Thrones or whatever. And I was bamboozled, and I even said that in the video because I read it for just a random challenge, and I said in the video, oh, like I think it's like set on Game of Thrones, and I did have a few comments saying no, it's not. And I was like, you know what, I kind of had a feeling, but I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to go against the publisher. You know what I mean?
They
I
lied
never
to
want to be
us.
wrong about something because yeah, and I feel like a fool because I was talking about it in that video, and I'm like, I look like an absolute clown right now because I was literally bamboozled. And I mean, I feel like maybe it could be, a children's story. Well, not children. It was quite dark. Like there were some like dark
Yeah.
themes in it and stuff. But
Hmm.
like it could be a story told to someone in the Game of Thrones world, I guess. Like if someone was reading a bedtime story, like maybe to little Jon Snow or something, or little Bran Stark, maybe, I don't know.
The theory
Uh,
was is that
to,
the ice dragon is beyond the wall and that it would come in
mm,
later in the series, or that it was like the crypts of
mm,
Winterfell. Like people did tried it, but George came out and was like, they lied to you. I don't know why they said that. It's really silly. Like there's no
yeah.
reason, but they did. They bamboozled everyone by saying that. But I thought that was a really good story, and like you said, kind of dark, but like
Mm,
I don't know, also endearing in a way.
mhm. It felt a little fairy tale-esque as
Hmm.
well at the same time. Like I really love the storytelling of it because it felt like I was being told a story.
Hmm.
uh, which honestly I do appreciate books like that in the fact that we could have like such a short book, but it could also be quite impactful. It just, yeah, it rung true to me. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. I had no idea it was getting made into a movie though.
Yeah,
No
well,
clue about that.
Hollywood is. Who knows if it will actually happen? But I think it actually has a lot of opportunity to be really good. I think it could be an amazing
Mm,
movie if done correctly, but we'll see. You can never count those chickens
mm,
before they hatch whenever it comes to movies. I was wondering something, transitioning over here. I was wondering if you had any reactions to the Goodreads Choice Awards because the results came out, and I've been a little bit more offline the last 24 hours because I don't want to see Wind and Truth spoilers, and also just been busy. So I haven't really seen a lot of people reacting to this. I'm pretty sure you reacted to it in your reading sprints. That's the only thing I've heard so far.
mhm.
Were there any surprises in the Goodreads Awards this year that you saw?
It's too predictable every year. It's
Yeah.
just a popularity contest. Like I kind of avoid the Goodreads Choice Awards every year because it's the same people winning, and it's just. ugh. But I will say that content on BookTube does always it's always successful. It always does well. But I haven't done a Goodreads in 3 years because I was against it. I was like, I'm not going to bother because it is just a popularity contest. It doesn't mean anything. So I was stuck it in this year because I was like, you know what, actually, like, it gets me reading more outside my comfort zone, and
Yeah, for sure.
specifically, yeah, I specifically went for the romantasy one because I was like, that's my least read genre, so I'm gonna give it a try. And there were some surprises. Like there was actually a book I gave 5 stars, and there were three other ones I actually gave above a 4 star, so it wasn't too bad. I still DNF two and gave a couple like 2 stars. But at the same time, it does allow you to find what is popular in all of that. So that's good. But like there isn't really a whole lot of diversity, or there isn't really a whole lot of range in some of the things. They've gotten rid of some really good categories that they shouldn't have. And yeah, some of the winners are just so predictable. The romance winner being Emily Henry. I know Laura is a fan of Emily Henry. I find Emily Henry to write the most vanilla, boring relationships. Like I I could get a better story just going to my local coffee shop and just watching a couple just chatting. I could save $10 on not buying a book and just watching people in real life. because there's just nothing interesting there. So I knew she would win. I'm sorry, Laura, I love you. I knew she would win, and I knew Sarah J. Maas would win Romantasy, even though she definitely didn't deserve it with that book. I knew Stephen King would win horror, but I haven't read that Stephen King book. I love Stephen King, but I haven't read that book.
I actually loved it. I thought it was tremendous.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, I'm just so glad a specific book didn't win in the horror category, and that was Murder Road, because I really hated Murder Road. Like that's one of those
It's
books
Simon
where
St. James, right? Simone St. James.
Simone
Sorry,
Saint,
Simon. I'm an
yes,
idiot. Simone.
on we all, on we all. But yeah, I just vehemently hated that book, so I was glad that didn't win. So I am glad Stephen King. I love Stephen King, but I just haven't read that book, so I can't really speak on it. But yeah, too many of the other ones is just maybe a little bit too predictable. So my feelings towards that is it's just a popularity contest. That's all it is. And there are definitely better awards out there. But it's fun to be part of the community and to see people get hyped about it, and it does bring about a conversation. I just bring about a conversation, especially how like terrible like say Emily Henry is and like her books. So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Amanda supports you. She actually hates Emily Henry as well. Emily Henry is one of those authors that has like somehow come in. Like, I'm not usually somebody who reads romance, but it's actually come into my purview. Kelsey reads them and enjoys them, but I've definitely seen the other side. I've seen, yeah, as my chat is pretty much 50-50 right here. So you've caused quite the commotion. I was looking at the Romantasy, Sarah J. Maas winning, probably not that shocking. One of the books on here that I've really been interested in is When the Moon Hatched. And I talked about the reason
Hmm.
why is because it's an amazing title. When the
Hmm.
Moon Hatched.
It is.
And I'm like, and then what? So what happened when the
Yeah.
moon hatched? What was in the moon? It's like it's such a good title. And I gotta say, a lot of the Romantasy titles are pretty solid, I think. Maybe that
Mm.
is maybe that's a hot take, but like Apprentice to the Villain, A Fate Inked in Blood, A Touch of
Mm.
Chaos. Like these sound interesting to me, and the covers are all pretty cool. They're a little bit samey at some points.
Oh,
But
well, I did read the top 10. Well, so I picked my TBR pretty much before the top 10 was even revealed because it was going to be predictable. So what I ended up doing was I got all of it was like a top 20. So like when the show list, it was like a top 20. So I put them all in order of most voted, and pretty nearly the exact same top 10 is what ended up being the top 10. And there was only two that didn't make that top 10 that should have based on votes alone. So
mhm.
obviously, Sarah J. Maas, she had like 444,000 ratings on Goodreads. And then it was When the Moon Hatched, I think, with 120,000 ratings. So even from the beginning,
Game over.
you, yeah, she was going to win, and she
Yeah.
still did by like half. Like she had like what 123,000 votes, and then the next one was, I think, Apprentice to the Venom with like
Yes, that's right. Yep.
55,000 or something. So there was always going to be from the beginning like a winner. So I easily predicted what was going to be the top 10. I started reading it, and then the top 10 was announced. I was like, okay, I don't really need to change very many, so I can just continue. And I will say I did read When the Moon Hatched, and I gave it 2.5
Oh
stars.
no, that's not
Yeah.
good.
I no, I liked certain aspects of it. I did. The only thing is, it felt very safe. It felt a little bit of a retread of some classic young adult books. So like Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, it felt very that.
Okay.
And I didn't think it took enough risks with the story it had because it was very interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, it felt a little bit too safe. And again, I'm probably not the expert on any of that. Laura, I don't know if Laura's read When the Moon Hatched. Maybe she would give a better
She
review
was
on
saying
it
most of
than
the
I do.
romantasy readers that she knows were hoping for When the Moon Hatched. That was the one they hoped
Mm,
would win. But I mean, I don't know. The only one I'm kind of surprised by when I'm looking at this is the sci-fi. It's a Ministry of the Future, I think,
mm,
one. And I really thought Mercy of the Gods by James S. A. Corey would win because The Expanse is so
mm,
popular. But Mercy of the Gods wasn't even in the top two. I think it was third or fourth, which is, I guess that for me, that's a surprise. Maybe for people who are on Goodreads a lot, that isn't, but I was kind of shocked. Also, Simon, thank you for the super chat. $2. Very generous. Says, Jimmy, read some M. Hen. I will, because Kelsey has the books and I'm curious. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Jared if I can find this message. Said, there are better awards like the Nutties. And that is true. I would agree. And also, Nut. I am very excited to say that I will be doing the Nutties and not a top 10. I was going to do one or the other. I'm going to be doing a Nutties award show once again. It's a lot of work, but they're a lot of fun as well. Last year's Nutty video is actually probably my favorite video I've made. So I'm very excited for that. And then I think for those who are worried about the top 10 not existing, I might just tier list literally everything I read in the past year and do that. Because I did that 2 years ago and I had a blast with it. I'll probably do that a little bit further in January. Because you make a tier list, put some book covers. It's not as bad, so I'll try to do both. Are you going to do year-end awards?
Probably not awards, but I will do my best books, my worst books. But I am glad you're doing the Nutties because I remember, was it the end of your chat with Ben a few weeks ago when you were mentioning like the Nutties and doing.
It was my my last stream where it was a wrap up. That's right.
Yes, so I am glad they're going ahead. And I can't wait to watch, honestly. But yeah, I'll be doing. See, I could never be you. I can't be as iconic with an award system or anything. I'm not that unique. But I'm just gonna do my bog standard best books of the year, which honestly I always feel so like panicky about this time of year because I think what's going to be in my best books of the year, but two, what if someone goes on to read it and they don't like it? Because then they'll think my entire list is terrible and shocking. Which again, I don't like. I don't say myself. I don't. Again, I don't care if people love or hate what I love or hate. But like at the same time, when it comes to the best books of the year, I mean that's bold.
Oh,
that is like a bold claim.
It's very bold. And look at me. Okay, there is nothing. There's nothing worse than
Don't
my
help
list.
a look.
have a gander at this beautiful jawline. I'm telling you, you can't worry about that because for me, my last two books of the year were The Scar by China Miéville, which is an obscure book to an obscure series, and then the other time was The Great Ordeal by R. Scott Baker, which is like book 6 of a series that has like 2,000 reviews. Like no one's reading those. I'm sure people got to number one, like, oh, what is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like Babel or something, or is it Stormlight? And then it's that, and they're like, oh, yeah, I can't even read that because I have to read a whole series. Like, I feel like my videos are so anticlimactic when it comes to year-end stuff because I always pick something goofy.
No, you pick things that not a whole lot of other people are talking about. So it's new, it's fresh. We love it. Don't change.
Well, I appreciate it. And Amanda says, Chad top books. I just have to be honest. When something gets me, I know. I'll tell you what, I finished a book yesterday. I think I read it in 2 days, maybe 3. Aversion by Alistair Reynolds. Oh my goodness, this book is so good. It came out last year. I really wanted to read it. I heard good things about it, but it never really came up on the TBR. And it's like 300 pages, nice standalone, like perfect sci-fi book. And it won one of the patron picks for this month. Well, I said, I'll try to get this done before Wind and Truth. Who knows how long this will take me. I read it and immediately was hooked. Did you see the Netflix show 1899?
I didn't know.
So it's like that, but way better. And it starts out on this ship.
I trust you.
Yeah, so you're starting on this ship, and this Maas hits, it's like in the 1800s, I think, or 17 or 1800s. And this Maas like falls down and breaks this dude's skull, and his brain's swelling, and they have to like drill a hole in the skull so that it can expand and like seep out. And you're like, what is going on? And they're talking about going into this fissure of this mountain, this edifice, I think is what they say. And it just gets really weird from there. And you can never expect where the book really goes from that point. And there's like a mysterious lady that's on the ship. And I just love creepy ship stuff like that. I'm all for that. Like the movie Ghost Ship. I don't know if anyone saw that movie back in the day, but I loved that movie. And this book from the jump was everything I wanted. And I thought Alistair Reynolds' writing was just phenomenal. I thought it was so good. So that's a book that I'm like, well, I thought I had my top 10 kind of figured out. Where do I put this
You
bad
don't.
boy? What do I do
Right at
with
the top,
that?
it sounds like. Right at the top. I I love the opening of Ghost Ship. I find that so creepy and weird and
Hmm.
awful.
I mean, the sea's
I love it.
creepy.
Yeah, yeah, true, true, true. No, I agree. Like I very terrified of like any kind of space where you can't just escape. You can't just go home. So like on a ship, in space, things like that. Definitely some of the creepiest stories ever told. Look at Titanic. I love
Oh,
the Titanic
great
film.
movie.
You
Great
know,
movie.
I love the film so much. Obviously the disaster just like breaks my heart. But
Yeah.
yeah, things like that really do they terrify me. The fact that I can't just leave and go home. What do you mean I'm stuck yeah, on a plane as well? I have to overcome so much like fear of flying, going to these places because when you're on a plane you can't go anywhere. Like your life is in someone else's hands. In any movie, any TV show, any book where the characters' lives are in someone else's hands, some of the scariest stuff.
Oh yeah, and there's no, like you said, nowhere to go. But like even
No.
standing on a beach and looking out at the ocean in the dark and knowing that if you were just
Mm.
thrown out there, like real darkness, like we're not talking about a little bit of light down, nothing, middle of the
No.
ocean.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, terrifying. And then just like I don't know, I thought Alistair Reynolds set up the atmosphere really well, but also there's some good humor in that book. There's some good British humor that I really enjoy, like dry. Like I was like, oh, this is good. So just a honestly a home run book, and I would implore people if it sounds interesting to go out and pick it up. It's called someone asked what it was. It's Eversion, Eversion. Highly, highly, highly recommended. And also, yes, I have played Dead Space, and I love that game very much. Tom Orange says the only good thing in that movie, speaking of Ghost Ship, is that scene, the clothesline scene at the beginning, and that is actually that's true. I like a lot of bad movies, Gavin. It's a toxic trait
Oh,
of mine. I
same.
just
Have you have you seen Titanic too?
there's a second one.
Yeah, but it was made by I think it's called The Asylum. They make those really terrible low budget horror films, like horror thriller mystery films.
Oh my
Titanic
goodness.
2 is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So they apparently make a Titanic 2, and then somehow the exact same thing happens again, except this time it's a tsunami, and this time it's bringing the iceberg to the Titanic too. So you have a couple of paramedics. They are the worst paramedics ever. Like they ignore people's calls. They're like two like really hot women, and somebody gets hurt. Like the way I guess this could probably happen, but the way that they help someone is like they're bleeding, so they put a credit card and some sellotape over the wound, and they're fine.
Money
And
fixes
listen,
all.
money does fix it all. Look, if you've got enough credit, then like you're winning. You're winning. But I would honestly implement because sometimes I love watching really bad movies because they just make me laugh so much. So I would recommend it. There's another one called Camp Blood. And that one, it looks like it was filmed by like for a like student project, but it was actually released. And yeah, not to spoil anything, but the main character runs over the clown in her car. And bear in mind, this is not a supernatural film at all. She runs over him in the car, and then he appears in her back seat of the car, just somehow. I was like, did they forget like logic? Did they forget like how is he appearing in the backseat of this car? So honestly, it's just a bonkers, really terribly short film, but like it's so funny.
Well,
One of the reasons why I also love reading bad books as well is because of that. So you remember the credit card scene too? Yes.
yeah, apparently people have seen it and know it, which is pretty
Yeah.
incredible, dude. There's a lot of bad B movies I love, and one of them is called Dead End, and it's like a supernatural horror where these people are in his car. But it has my favorite phrase I've ever heard in a movie, and this is R rated for if the kids are watching, plug their ears, is macaroni and dick cheese, which is something that me and my best friend Andrew have been saying for 10 years. Like, hey, dude, do you want any mac and cheese? Oh, is it macaroni and dick cheese? And it's like, yeah, dude. That's not something you're going to get from Universal Studios. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to happen.
Oh, 100%. I'm gonna start using that every now and then.
It's such a good phrase. I love it. I bet no one thought that would be something that they would hear on this.
We're definitely not on Chatting with Nuts. Absolutely not. But I feel like this is like kind of the takeaway from this episode is macaroni and dick cheese.
Macaroni
That's the
and Dick
takeaway.
Cheese may be the new title of this video. It might actually just be my brand
Ooh.
going forward. Maybe that's the new channel name. I am. Someone said your best friend is not Alan. I have many best friends. Not many. I have like four, but yes, he's one of them for sure.
Still a lot.
Yes. You know, this is random. Do you ever just want your friends to meet each other?
Mm,
Like I want all my
yeah.
booktube friends to meet my friend Andrew, who I've grown up with, because he's such an amazing dude. Like he has the best laugh in the
Mm,
world. Like he's just I just want everyone to meet Andrew. I love him. I did Dudes Talking Manga with him. That was my co-host that just completely bailed
oh,
on me and didn't do anything.
oh,
And if you're watching this, Andrew, you didn't do anything you told me you were going to do. You just you screwed the pooch. I mean, you just gave me a big old bowl of macaroni and dick cheese, and then the channel died. So
one thing I love about watching you and Chandler Nuts is that you're not afraid to call someone out. Like you will call out Alan, you'll call out Murphy, you'll call out Joanna. If they don't invite you to something or if they do something without you, like honestly, I love it because you don't mind dragging someone live on air.
oh, I
And
love it.
I respect it. I
I
respect
live
it.
for
I
that.
do.
I live for conflict.
Yeah.
I love conflict.
I well, I live for watching it, honestly. I live for watching it. Okay, maybe not when you're dragging Joanna because she's lovely, like. But
She has no
I will.
defense.
Yeah, I mean, when she's leaving you out of things, absolutely, you have every right. But yeah, I love stuff like that. But also going back to the question about like friends being friends and things, absolutely, I would. I have some in real life friends who I think have so much in common, not just in terms of books, because a lot of the booktube friends I have so like music taste, like my music's kind
Hmm.
of like align and stuff. And I have friends who prefer music over reading and books. I'm probably one of the few in my social circle who like reads. So I would absolutely love that, but then I'm also like kind of terrified too. Like what kind of stories will they
Yeah,
be
that's
sharing?
true. That's fair. Yeah, that's true.
Especially what my friends, I have a very small circle of like IRL friends, and I've known them for 20 years. Like we've been friends since school, and yeah, I can only imagine what they
But
would
you
come
can
up with and
embarrass
what they
them
would say
too.
about me.
You can embarrass them too. I brought Andrew on Chatting with Nuts one time. Nobody watched it. But in the middle of it, I go, "Hey, do you remember that time you got arrested?" And he's like,
Oh.
it's like
Now that's the kind of stuff I would love to watch. I would love to watch like real life, drama. Like what do you mean you got arrested? Like why? Like I'm invested now.
I think
The
my
story behind
exact
that.
words were, "Now you spent some time in the pen, right?" Honestly, I can't remember what he said. I think he's like, "Yeah, maybe we shouldn't bring that up or something." And I just start dying laughing. It's one of my favorite moments in Chatting with Nuts. It's so good. I mean, I brought in a
History.
guy who's
Yeah.
read like 20 books, but I thought I ended up having a pretty good book conversation because he's so out of the sphere that his opinions don't line up with anybody's. Like he's just going
I love
off.
I love
Jared,
that.
our lovely friend Jared, who had a great video this past week, said Jimmy is the messy one of this social circle. I like to think that's why people keep me around. I keep it interesting, keep them honest.
Hmm.
It's important.
Absolutely. It would be so boring without you. Let's be
Thank you.
honest.
That's all
So
I've ever
boring.
wanted is just to be missed. That's all I want. um,
Oh, I don't want this to be missed.
I just want to be missed. A bookish might have some skeletons in the closet. Like getting arrested is a big deal. And Evie said she did watch the episode. There are obviously people who watch the episode, but not enough. I mean, more people should have watched that. It was a banger.
Mm.
Um,
You know what? More people should be watching every episode, let's be honest, Like, so underrated. We should be getting
I
millions of
agree.
people watching.
I agree. It's almost like why don't people want to spend 3 hours on a Friday listening to me talk? I just don't understand. Like, what's wrong with you?
I don't
If
understand it.
like, what are
Yeah.
you doing with your life? I just,
It's
um,
them, not you.
it's hard.
I'm not you.
It's hard being me. So I have the Italian, right? I have
Yes.
Frostheart.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
need one last recommendation from you, and I want you to recommend me a romanticy book that isn't Sarah J. Maas.
Ooh, okay. What I love, there were three that I loved in the video I just did. Only one of them I gave 5 stars. The other two I gave 4.5. So they were very close. They were very close. So I'm like, would you like the one I gave 5 stars, or would you prefer the one I gave 4.5 stars? So I'm gonna go with the one I gave 4.5 stars because I think you have more of a chance of liking it. It
Okay.
is Norse mythology. It's Norse mythology. It gave me a little bit of like God of War vibes, a little bit, just a little bit. And that is the Fating to Blood. I actually was pleasantly surprised by that one. You haven't read it, right? You haven't read
No,
it.
I've read no romantasy at all. Now let me ask you this. Let me give you a little pre-qualifier here. I would
Hmm.
prefer if the enemies to lovers trope is out. I don't want it. I don't want it. Like Jon Snow in season 8. I'm not a big fan. Um,
Okay.
do all of them have it?
Uh,
All of them have it, don't they?
I feel like yeah, I think 90% of them were
All
enemies
right,
to
we'll
lovers,
we'll
especially.
ignore that then.
I will argue though that Fate into Blood was more like unlikely allies, a
Okay.
little bit of tension to lovers. Like I wouldn't exactly say enemies. Enemies is a strong word. I would say unwilling allies, unwilling allies. And I'm not an expert in Norse mythology. I'm not an expert in mythology at all. But I do think it had a really good plot. It had a really good plot.
Okay.
It was quite exciting, and I think out of all the ones that I mentioned, it it probably would be the one that you would enjoy the most. I think.
Okay. It's I'm
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 so
picking
scared.
I'm picking it up.
I'm I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't know.
Don't be scared.
Wait, I
I'm not
shouldn't
that
be.
brutal.
I know. I know, and especially since as well, like if you don't like it, I would literally just be like, okay. Like, I actually wouldn't mind if you don't like this. Again, it's not a ride or die for me. Like I have no books that's like a ride or die for me.
I feel like
So I
there's
think
no
it's fine.
stakes though. I need you to be invested in this read as I go through it. I mean, I will send you voice messages of me just
Mm,
giving you reactions if you'd like. I think that could be fun.
absolutely. So like I want to reciprocate. I want to do the same for you as well. So like when I'm reading a Song of Ice and Fire, I can also do that
Please.
with you too. Unless there is something
Please.
else that you think I should absolutely read, then
A Song
I
of Ice
would
and
do
Fire
that
works for
too.
me. No, A Song of Ice and Fire works
Mm.
just
It's a
fine.
commitment. It's a commitment. It's a big commitment. It's a big ask.
Beesney says the sequel comes out soon too. So that
Mm.
it's always fun to be a part of a release hype train. I will give it a go.
Mhm.
I will try. The one thing I will say is I think lately I've been really into books that just have like plots that I can like just dive into, like Aversion by Alistair Reynolds. Like the plot is just it goes and
Mhm.
it's never not interesting. At least to me. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that thinks it's drivel, but for me personally, I was just in it the whole way through, and I value
Yeah.
that quite a bit. I read of a lot of aimless
I'm gonna write.
stuff, but
I'll write it down. I want to write a version down. I want to write it down. Otherwise, I'll forget. And it's with an E,
it's with an
which
E.
is like
Okay.
the only way. It's the only way you can spell it, isn't it? Eversion, eversion,
Eversion. Eversion.
eversion.
If you hate it,
Yeah.
just let me know. But I'm really just riding a high from that book. I'm having a blast. And honestly, I'm reading Wind and Truth. I read all the preview chapters. I'm like 400 and something pages in already because the preview chapter is like 320 pages. And, you know,
Did he
I'm in it for
really
the
release that many? He
oh
released that many before?
Gavin, listen to this. This is insane. I was 300, I think 20 pages into the book when I
Uh,
picked it up. I still have a
uh,
1,000 pages to read. Like, I was thinking, oh, I'm like a third of the way through it. It's not even 25%. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this book is massive. But I gotta say,
mm,
I'm in on the plot. Like, I'm just in. Like, there's a lot of stuff I could critique and mess with, but honestly, I'm there to find out what happens, and that's kind of fun because I read a lot of like aimless stuff, and I love that.
yeah.
That's my bread and butter. But every now and then, I
Mm,
like to just jump into something and be like, I'm going to be told a story. There's going to be a conclusive ending, and it's going to hook me, and that's a lot of fun. And I think maybe I need to genre jump a little bit. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you're a big Agatha Christie fan, where should I
oh.
start with Agatha Christie?
So, I I do love me a good Agatha Christie book. I've read, and the best part of reading Agatha Christie is solving those books. I wouldn't say they're not the best books I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they can be maybe a little bit boring because a lot of it is just interrogation.
I
It's
love that
just
though.
like,
I love dialogue.
that's good. Okay, that's good. That's good. So I mean, And Then There Were None is my favorite Agatha Christie book. But if you want one that's like not as, well, it's still popular, but it's like not as hyped as like say Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile or things like that. Another one is my favorite, and I would also recommend The Murder of Roger Ackroyd because not only it had a bit of a surprising twist of who did it, but it was so fun to solve it because I did. I managed to
You
solve it,
cracked the
which
case.
I cracked the case and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, I actually got it right. But like
Gavin
it was
solves
a
it
tough
all.
one. Gavin solved it all. Well, I'm telling you, I pit myself against Miss Agatha Christie because she tries to get one over on me. She tries to make it hard, but I think I've won because I'm literally doing this as a battle against her. I I think I've won about 6 or 7 of the 10 Agatha Christie books that I've read. I want to say something like that. And is that a flex? I would say so.
I would say
But
so.
at the same time, like she does give you a lot of clues. She does give you she does give you a lot of red herrings as well, though. She does try and bamboozle you. You just have to learn when Agatha is on her BS. And I feel like once you've got a couple under your belt, you can go into the next ones and kind of solve it. But yeah, also yeah, Bookish Mansion Crooked House. I read that earlier this year and I really enjoyed that one too. I didn't solve that one. It feels a little bit is that the right word? Unsolvable? Insolvable?
Unsolvable. Yes.
Unsolvable. Yeah, because it's such a frolicking good time and I really enjoyed it and it was so surprising. So I would also recommend that one. But Murder of Roger Ackroyd. But if you really want to start and then there were none, that would be the best one.
Okay.
But
Okay. Garrick says you're based for that. Roger Ackroyd is the mystery goat, in my opinion.
mm,
Is Roger Ackroyd related to Dan Aykroyd?
couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell. I don't think so.
You know, sometimes you shoot
But you
and
never know.
sometimes you miss, you know,
You never know.
sometimes they fall a little flat. Alan says, if you like interrogation scenes, watch Line of Duty. No. Mrs. Nutt says, also, we have that book, so you're good. Thank goodness. I'm glad to hear
Okay.
that. I
Oh,
did not know we
perfect.
owned,
We'll get
and
started. Any Agatha Christie you didn't realize?
I didn't know I had it.
Wow.
We're
Well,
in a
I
rough
can't
spot.
judge.
We're in a rough
I
spot.
can't, can't judge. I can't judge.
Listen, we're thinking about getting rid of our like TV room and making it just a library, which is ironic because I already have a library and it's not this room, it's another room. So we're getting to critical
Wow.
mass at the Nut House.
Oh, wow. I would love to see the layout of this nut house and just like get a visual because I mean, why would you need more? It looks like a massive room that you're in right now.
Listen, anytime you want to come check out the Nut House, you just let me know. The door is always open. If you ever make your way over across the pond, as they say, you're welcome at the Nut House anytime. We'll provide wine and plenty of food. Do you like Indian food? We have great Indian food.
I lo I feel like there's no food I wouldn't eat. When I say I'm easy to please, I'm also easy to please in food, easy to please in drink. Literally, I'm just an easy to please kind of fellow. I love a little bit of everything.
I love that
Hmm.
about you. I love how easygoing you are and how encouraging you are. And um, you got me on some middle grade. You got me on some
Hmm.
ancient Gothic literature. You got me in
Hmm.
romantasy, and now you got me on Agatha Christie, which is pretty amazing. Tom Orange says, and then there was none is a top 10 book for me. Okay,
Hey,
dang. I mean,
nice taste,
that
nice
is,
taste.
isn't it the best selling book, fiction book ever? Right? Isn't it? I think, or it's considered
It's
one of them.
it. I think it's like the best-selling crime book or the best-selling mystery book of all
Has to,
time, but it
yeah,
could
that's
be one.
has to be.
Yeah, it could be one of the best-selling fiction books of all time as well. I'm trying to think of what it would be if it wasn't that. I can't really think of.
Yeah,
Can't think of
there's
anything.
no way.
There's nothing else. But yeah, I do think it's definitely the best-selling mystery book of all time. I do think that's correct.
Hmm.
So you gotta get in it. You gotta get. You're missing out. You're missing out.
And they're not that long either, which is kind of a benefit, at least from what I've seen. They're very quick.
Yeah, they're really not. And if you try and also use it as like an interactive tool of like actively trying to solve it as you're going along, it could be one of the most fun reading experiences that you will have in such a long
I'm
time.
getting
So
some
that's why I like also like
ideas.
to, as you should, as you should. Like this
Hmm.
is what I'm here for. I'm here to inspire. I'm here to endorse your decisions and your ideas. Um, but yeah, I feel like Agatha Christie, like, oh, would I say that is some of my best reads ever? No, but they're some of my best experiences with reading because
Yeah.
I love trying to solve them so much.
Yeah, and I'm always down for a really good experience. So apparently I was wrong, by the way. Jared said the best-selling fiction book is A Tale of Two Cities, and Gareth said best-selling mystery. It's fifth overall behind Harry Potter and some others, but it's number five. Okay, so it's top five. I mean, that's still very, very impressive. Um, but
Definitely. I wish I was in the top five.
you're the top
I'm
five.
not.
You're the top five booktubers easily.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That may be in your list. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
for sure in my list. For sure in my list.
Let's keep on
You're
that.
blowing up. I remember when I first found you. I think you only had 20 something thousand, maybe 30,000, and now you're almost up to 100 over there, right? Right around 100.
M- Maybe it's been a hustle. It's been a hustle, but I would say like top. It would actually depend, wouldn't it? It would be again like very subjective. Like you've got the top five in terms of views and subscribers, and then you have people's personal top
Type
fives,
5 in
which
the
I
heart
have my
right here.
top five in the heart. I say I'm a. You know what Princess Diana said? How she would never be a queen of the country, but she just wants to be a queen of people's hearts. That's me. I just want to be a queen of people's hearts. I don't want to be a queen of YouTube. I want to be a queen of people's hearts.
The quote
That's
I
all I
always
ask for.
remember from Princess Diana is, ah! Nah, that's terrible. All right. All right. All right. That was off.
You are terrible. I love how you felt so safe and comfortable doing that, though. Like, uh,
Dude, no one likes me more than me. No one hates
the
me more than
goal
me
and the
either.
gumption. The goal and the gumption.
Also, by the way, apparently I own a Fate inked in blood already. Apparently I already own it.
Oh my gosh. I love Mrs. Nuts. Like she's just coming in with all of the good news. You should-
That is
They
that
need to
is.
control you better.
I'm upset that I own that book because I had heard. Apparently I bought it. Apparently I just black out in Barnes and Noble. I just start drooling and spinning in circles and just start throwing things into a tote bag. Oh man.
Oh, I do the exact same. This is why I have two book rooms. I have two book rooms myself. Like, for why? For what reason?
Because you're the Princess Diana of BookTube, according to Rodrigo, which I think is actually kind of endearing and lovely. I love that.
It
Uh,
is endearing a little bit, but I'm also like, how did we get to this point? Like,
I
the
honestly I
Princess
don't
Diana,
know.
really?
Ishin says Jimmy canceled by British royal family. Confirmed, actually. I don't know how we got here again, but I'm glad that we did get here. We've been going on for about 2 hours. I don't want to take up too much of your Saturday morning at this point. But I, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you so much for spending time with me, with the audience. I think most people here already knew you, but for those who didn't, you're welcome. I think that Gavin is just not only one of my favorite creators in BookTube or YouTube, but also just a fabulous person. And that's why I said at the end, I think everyone would want to be your friend after watching this episode. And I think that that is the truth. I think I nailed it.
I think you did, literally. And honestly, thank you so much for having me. Uh, Yeah, I think you're cracking up. You're cracking. I mean, I could go for another 2 hours. I go for another 2 hours. But I honestly appreciate the time you've given me. And finally, after all this time as well, being a guest and number 88 as well. Like, what a special number. Like, what
It's
does
a
the
good
number
number.
88 mean? I do not know. Yes, I do not know what that like, the implications of that number. I'm sure it's very philosophical, very deep, and it means so much. And also, I'm so glad that you had me on with the new layout as well. Like, I love the new layout. So yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
like you waited to perfect the Fantasy Network chatting with nuts formula before you got me here. I appreciate that
Yeah, I
so
use
much.
Alan as
You
a
wanted to be
test
perfect.
dummy. I use Alan as a test dummy. Then I bring in the real big hitters after him. That's what I do.
Honestly, if anything's gonna get this chat views, it's going to be that, that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be me. It's going to be you.
Someone thumbs down the stream as soon as I did that joke. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my God. Well, don't forget to like,
Or dislike.
comment, subscribe. Yeah, I mean, it's engagement. It is engagement. So we'll have all of it. We'll have all of it.
Yeah, Gav, what's your
Uh,
next video that you got coming out so people can look forward to it?
so I have uh, four more in the works. I have my the top 10 romantic books on the Goodreads Choice Awards video coming. Well, today for me, tomorrow for you. I have a library challenge video coming that I've been filming all year, coming relatively soon as well. I have my third episode of Gavin Reads All the King, where I'm going through all of Stephen King's books in chronological order. That's coming as well. And I also have a challenge video where I'm like going through my own TBR and stuff. That's also coming. So I've got like four things, pretty much boom, 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 back to back. Merry Christmas.
I
Merry,
love it.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
And
Enjoy.
that's how we like to celebrate the holiday season here on Chatting with Nuts and over there at Gavin Reads It All. Folks, thanks for being here, being the third guest, and being so welcoming to our lovely guest tonight. I always appreciate the input that you have and for putting up with my terrible comedy bits and my swings and my misses. So, hey, let's give them a round of applause. Let's give the chat a round of applause. Yes, absolutely. You guys are wonderful. Gavin, you're the best. And folks, if you haven't seen Gavin's channel, you should, especially The Nunnery and Lord of the Rings. Those are probably my two favorites. Go check that out. I have it linked down below in the description. And I will be back next week. We're not waiting 2 weeks. We're actually back next week with StoryTube, Carlos and
Double date.
Wanda. We're
Yeah, are
doing
you
it.
doing a double date?
We're doing a double
You're
date.
doing a double
Mrs.
date.
Nuts will be here. She'll have her own microphone, and we are going to be talking about our trip to Ireland. We spent time with those two, and they bought us a bunch of books. So we're going to talk about those books, and everyone. I'm going to get exposed for the monster that I am in real life because they've met me. And no, it's actually a propaganda piece. It's to kind of repair my image after the Diana joke. Hopefully it works. I don't know. This ship is crashing. Okay. If you like this video, hit like. If you dislike, you hit dislike. If you love to think about subscribing, I'd love to have you around. There's a Patreon in the description. It's optional, but always appreciated. Until we see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page.